Accept and ignore, just kicking down all the doors. Guarantee you, boy, if I ask for it, it's gotta be real big. I gotta make it just for my kids and for their kids, just kids. That's wealth years and years. Promise my brother soon as he out to finish this bid, we finna do it bigger than anybody ever did. The odds is real big, jobs that's real big. Satan trying a little, my God is real big. Stayed up on the grind on the cars is real big. I gotta do it big, the only way that I can live.
For the first time in IVRA competition, we go racing at the Hungaroring, the new circuit added to the iRacing service for the first round of the HyperX GT Sprint Series here in the fall season of 2021. It's a 6-round championship, taking in some of the classics of GT3 racing, starting with this one, which is absolutely fantastic for this particular type of racing. We go to some really iconic circuits, as we're about to see. Bob Motorsports Park is coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Alton Park, Belleau, Brands Hatch and Montreal to round off the fall season. And then there's some great ones in the winter half of this one as well. We're very much looking forward to it. Here at RaceBot TV, we'll be broadcasting all of the races live for you once again. My name is Ewan O'Leary. I'll be alongside Sumu Arua for this one, and Hugo Luis is behind the cameras once again. Sumu, it's great to have you along. I'm very excited for tonight because Hungaroring and GT3 racing is a fantastic recipe for a very exciting afternoon of racing, and that's exactly what we've got on the menu here tonight.
That's right, Ewan. It is going to be a spectacular day. Firstly, we all love GT3 cars. Some people might have been slightly bored of them, but I don't think we are here at RaceBot TV. And I think all the viewers right here, all of you also share that same excitement. Plus, the excitement and the novelty of a brand new Hungaroring. It's a circuit that might be hard to pass on, yes, but overtakes are not what leads to a good race. What leads to a good race is close, hard competition and some lot of tough fighting, and that is something the IVRA, not the IVRA, the HyperX GT Sprint Series is very used to over its entire existence.
It is indeed. We've got 34 cars currently on the server right now, ready to provide that close racing for us. And it's pushed us up towards the front, as you might be able to expect. There's going to be a lot of chat about the different cars and the strengths and weaknesses, because quite frankly, we haven't had that long to work out which cars are strongest around the Hungaroring and which cars are not. Because first of all, this circuit has not been out for very long, as we've said, but also everybody's been very tight-lipped about what's good and what's not. They don't want to give away anything to their rivals, as you might expect.
Naturally, and it's nice to see this gamesmanship, right? When a series initially starts out, as was the case with the IVRA GT Sprint last year, it took a little bit of a more casual approach in terms of the competition. Some teams initially at the start were more giving and some wanted to have fun. But as the season progressed, the fun element of it was there, of course, in the racing, but it turned into a more competitive fun where teams really wanted to go for it. And we saw this amazing fight between Team Hörslingberg and RSR by G Performance at the very last race at Mosport Park. And since then, right, the precedent has been set for the series. And you just take a look at the names on the grid for this one. I am genuinely pumped up for this season because everyone looks so competitive. Everyone looks so ready to go.
Absolutely, we had a fantastic season finale last time out, and this is what they are fighting for on this occasion. HyperX Cloud headset for the winners in this one, a HyperX Alloy keyboard for those who come runner-up, and then the last step on the podium in terms of the championship, a HyperX Pulse Fire mouse and Fury S mousepad for, I believe, both of the drivers who contribute towards the team's championship standing, if you see what I mean. So that's what these guys are fighting for. As you mentioned, though, a fantastic championship finale. Unfortunately, I don't believe Hörslingberg have actually re-entered themselves for this championship, so we don't have defending champions on this occasion. However, we do have 4 RSR cars, and if you're looking up and down the order to try and find maybe some kind of team who we expect to see up towards the front, then RSR have got to be right at the top of the list.
Yeah, they've got that winning habit right here in the IVRA GT Sprint Series, the HyperX IVRA GT Sprint Series. You get it. It'll take a little bit of time for me to get used to, but it's good to see HyperX come on. Good to see them coming up with a giveaway. But more on RSR. They are very quick. They are very rapid, and they had this run of momentum in the first half. But in the second half, they lost it, and that's the essential part. Even the best of teams can lose momentum, and that's why starting off strong and building it up in the first round has to be the agenda for today.
It does indeed. Just one more thing to mention to everybody at home before we really get into this, as qualifying is just getting underway, as you can see. We're going to have a giveaway soon here, so make sure you keep your eyes on that. There's a link in the chat, I've been told, so go and have a look. But it may interest you. So yeah, have a peek and have a look. So qualifying is underway right now. The car's streaming out. It's not a private qualifying session. You've got to deal with the traffic on this occasion. You can see 35 minutes qualifying up there. It's not quite that simple. We've got two 15-minute sessions effectively. When the clock hits 20 minutes to go on the top right and top left-hand side of your screen, excuse me, we're going to take the top 10 from this particular session right now and put them into Q2, along with the top 5 who had just got themselves into Q2 because of their practice performance in the session that has just finished a few moments ago. Yeah, we'll be able to have 15 cars in the Q2, and then when we get to 15 minutes to go, then those cars can go out and fight it out for pole, but the session doesn't reset, so if you actually do a better lap time in Q1, then it doesn't really matter what you do in Q2. Your grid position is kind of set in stone anyway, and then we move on to the races, which we will explain in a few moments' time. But it's a nice format, I think. We're going to eliminate roughly half of the field here today, and then we're going to get the real front runners for the final 15 minutes to see who's going to be on pole for this race.
Yeah, exactly. It's going to be very interesting to see how that first qualifying session pays off, because track position here at the Hungaroring could be what wins you the race eventually. Everyone will tell you, you have to be consistent in your race pace. That is exactly what gets you the wins. 100%, that is one of the main important factors, but you can be that tad bit slower here at the Hungaroring and have track position and might still end up being the winner, because it is so hard to pass here. It takes real skill, which makes every single one of the moves at this circuit even more special. But still, you've got to dial in that perfect qualifying lap and hope for the best, because at this circuit, you really need that flow, and that flow is just so hard to get here.
It can be, and it can be easy to lose it as well when you do get it, so yeah, do have to be very careful with that one. The car's streaming over the line for the very first time to begin the laps right now. As you can see, we've got, well, everybody pretty much out there. I can't see a single, well, there's a few people in pit lane, but not very many, I'll tell you. Øystein George for the 96 team we're on board with right now in one of these BMWs, which seems a fairly popular car. This is for Full Send Racing, by the way. BMW fairly popular. It certainly has been popular in some of the special events in iRacing we've seen. It was dominant at the 24 Hours of Spa, for example, but this is an entirely different prospect. And because we've got a whole calendar in front of us, there's been a lot of different ways to go about it. And I think the great thing about GT3 racing is, to talk about the strengths of it all the time, is that there's no real right way to do this championship. There's multiple kind of good ways to do it, but there's no real one definite right way, I wouldn't say.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's all on execution, this one. It might seem a bit silly to say that, right, a championship that has a couple of different approaches in terms of how you can manage your race, so many different cars of sorts. It might seem a bit silly for me to say, but there's barely any approach per se, because it all comes down to how you execute it. All the approaches might seem very different on paper. It actually comes up to a very marginal gap. And it did come down to those margins in a way last year when we saw this fight between Hörsingbøl and RSR Esports by G Performance. That's the fun part. It's all on execution, and at the end of the day, Hörsingbøl were able to execute it just that little bit better right down to the very end, which is why they got the win. But the fun part is we've got 3 classes where all that execution can matter. This makes it even more fun to track.
Yeah, absolutely. We've got a fantastic time just coming from Maniti Racing. Tim Matskate has just gone half a second clear of the field in what was a very close qualifying session a few moments ago, until the number 8 car came over the line and completely obliterated the field, really, as we look at Tanguy van der Voege for the 79 team Ronin Academy he's driving for at the moment in that Lamborghini. But we've got a spread of different cars up towards the front. 4 different manufacturers inside of the top 4. Van der Voege just looking to make that 2 Lamborghinis up there towards the front as he comes over the line right now, but he's just starting a lap, really, so we'll be able to keep an eye on him over the next few moments. Very impressive though from Tim Matske. Look at half a second back to 1 second behind, and you get all the way down to 9th, where he's managed to put a half a second into the entire field there.
Yeah, it's Tim Matske. That's all I have to say. Tim is just so consistent in GT3 cars. Whether it be GT3, whether it be GTE, you put this man in any GT car and he'll be very, very good. Of course, the team leader of Maniti Racing, coming out here to race in this championship. He's been a bit of a mainstay of IVRA competition, but I suppose it's the first time we're seeing Maniti and him here in this particular championship. So that's a very welcome surprise for all of us right now. And it's good to see him go out there at the top. But I get a feeling even that gap will come down. I don't think everyone is going to rest so lightly without closing it in.
I would imagine you're right in that respect. Jonathan Ribeiro comes over the line as well right now with a 44.3, but that's not going to get him too far up towards the top 10, which, if you're only just joining us, is where you need to be at the end of all this. And there are the lap times at the moment. You can see it's quite close, quite densely populated around that top 10 kind of area, as a number of others trying to get up the order and get into that top 10. This is one of the RSR cars currently being driven by Ole Steenbratten, or another of the BMWs, going through the fearsome right-hander at turn 11, which is very easy to extend, and we see some quite horrific track extending there in real life, but the iRacing system has got that track limit well into order, which I'm very glad about, I've got to be honest, because it makes it a very committed corner indeed, and a very fun corner as well when you get it right.
Yeah, exactly. That's the part about the Hungaroring. Many people might not like it because it might be a bit of a tough track in the world of Formula 1 to have a good race on. But we saw that can change this year, and even when you drive it on the sim, it's a circuit that's just fun. It is what it is. It's so much fun when you get it right. Even those long, tricky corners that we have in the final sector of sorts. So that's the best part about it. The moment you start going into that flow, this is when the Hungaroring really comes into its own, and those fast corners you mentioned about, Ewan, they can be so amazing when you nail it, just like Garrett Thompson has right now.
Yeah, Kazar Sim Racing have brought 2 cars to the HyperX GT Sprint Series, as they did last season, and they were basically inseparable, finishing 8th and 9th in the championship in the end. And it looks like they're going to be set up to be very close and very similar once again. Garrett Thompson not going to be setting a lap time on that occasion, though, clearly not impressed with himself, and so he goes into the pit lane right now. He's partnered by Aaron R. Eccles here this weekend, both Canadians, the 2 of them, and then Brett Gutchard and Nathan Medina are going to be the other 2 drivers for the other Kazar Sim Racing car. So watch out for the pair of Porsches battling it out, maybe in the midfield, hopefully up towards the front here in this one. This is Thomas Cope, though, of Olympus Esports. He's half a second back, but just as we were watching Steinbratten and talking about turn 11, he jumped himself up into 2nd place and reduced that margin to Tim Matske. As you suspected, that margin will get close. Let's not forget, you can't tow back to the pit lane in this qualifying session, though, so you do have to bide your time a little bit more, and it does mean there's a lot more pressure on the lap times, because it's much more reduced in terms of how many laps you actually get of this circuit.
Yeah, that's right. You've got to warm up your tyres, you've got to prime them up into the right condition for going out there and having that big banker lap. And that's the fun part. That is the beauty of qualifying. I don't like qualifying to be super long, where you've got, say, a million chances to go out there and put your right lap. 1, maybe 2 chances. And it all comes down to your mental composure, which is what qualifying should be all about. Can you put your mind and can you dial it into the right situation at the right time to get the perfect lap? which is what we often tend to see in the world of other motorsport. And it's good to see IVRA coming up with somewhat similar of an approach, where you only have got a couple of tries at best to get the optimal lap time. That, as a driver, is a genuine challenge, and isn't that what we want to see?
It absolutely is. It's very busy out there on the circuit at the moment, and just to remind you of some of the teams, we've got the drivers on the left-hand side of the screen, but the team names are quite long, so we'll occasionally pop them up, but it's going to break our graphics, to be honest, so we'll just be careful on that one, but we'll keep you updated throughout the day, of course, as we go on board with Thomas Cope, currently comfortably inside the top 10, and this is where he needs to be. And you might be forgiven for thinking, well, why is he bothering right now? Because he's comfortably inside the top 10. First of all, this can change very quickly. The margins are too tight for you to really rest on your laurels. But second of all, this lap time right now could actually qualify him for the race itself. If he doesn't get it together in Q2, then the best lap time from Q1 is kind of carried over, and so it's the best lap time out of either of the qualifying sessions. So it matters right now, and it might matter for his actual qualifying and grid starting position in this one.
You're so right about that, Ewan. I saw it a couple of times last year when in the second qualifying session that the temperatures on the track changed a little bit, and so the optimum conditions were gone. And so your lap times from Q1 were the ones that actually worked out. And in some cases, it was a bit of a disadvantage for you to be only in Q2 because the conditions were not ideal. So you've got to play that game. You've got to understand how things will be flowing about right now. For Thomas Cope, this lap time matters so much.
It could well do, certainly, as we go through into turn 11, through the middle sector. Oh, and didn't look nice through there. A bit of entry oversteer, certainly, and driving onto the tarmac on the left-hand side as well. I think it almost intentionally giving himself a 1x, an off-track there, and maybe getting himself into trouble. Anyway, it didn't look comfortable as he went through there. Trying to break the 1 minute 42 barrier. You can see he's done a 43.0 at the moment, trying to get somewhere near towards Maniti Racing and RSR, who are 1 and 2 at the moment. Thomas Cope, though, comes over the line right now, and he just about makes it into the 42s by 1,000ths of a second. He's remarkably consistent, which doesn't always pay off too well in a qualifying session, but it certainly stands him in good stead for the race, the fact that his first 2 lap times were less than a tenth apart from each other.
Yeah, exactly. It's a good omen for the race that's going to come up very, very shortly. And I'm actually amazed, to be honest with you. That gap has come down to Tim, of course. Ollie Steinbrotten has come down and got a little bit closer to 0.3 of a second. But it's crazy where we're seeing some really top names from other IVRA competition in that top 10. We've got, of course, Stock Freak Racing. We've got 5-Star Motorsport, Pure Sims here and there as well. But honestly, it's just going to get better. It's just going to get even more crazy as things go on.
And it just has, because Tim Matske has gone faster again with a 42.2. It's outrageous, nearly half a second clear of the field right now. He's putting himself in a great place in towards Q2, which is coming up very shortly. 2 minutes left of Q1 right now. But let's not forget, we already have 5 cars that are very, very quick indeed, not participating in Q1 because they've already made it through to the money session. 5-Star Motorsport, Pure Sims, No Nonsense Racing, Kazar Sim Racing. We've actually got a third team that stuck under my nose a little bit. That's Richard Small, who's got them into the last part of qualifying, and Talk Freak Racing have also got themselves up into Q2 as well. So there's some big names here, and there's a big fight going on right now for those top 10 spaces. Just look at, especially at 11th and 12th right now, Impulse Racing and Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport. Look at the margins, they're both less than a tenth away from making it into Q2.
Exactly. It's crazy. Impulse Racing, wherever they go, they are a strong team. To see them P11 is a bit of a surprise, but it also indicates the quality that we've got right here in the top 10. It's outrageous. And of course, they're following Team RSO right now, which is amazing to see RSO come up with their efforts right now. But it's amazing to see them struggling. I wouldn't say struggling, but just barely able to cling on to P11 with all the other drivers so close behind as well. Speaking of defending champions, even that's the fun part. So they've all partially moved across to Team RSO. Here's Matt Stock-Hertzfeld, one of these star performers from Helsingborg. So they've had a bit of a shift. You've got Maximilian Fritz, we've got Matt Stock-Hertzfeld. They've all sort of change teams. So Max has gone on and started 5-Star Motorsport, and Matt's Tog Hertzfeld, that is, he's gone over to Team RSO. They're having this combined entry this year with a couple of cars, and this one is where you had all the defending champion drivers from last year's race, and it's interesting that they're currently not in P number 1.
It kind of is, yeah. They're doing all they need to at the moment, but it is certainly telling the fact that they are nearly a second down. Time is about to expire, by the way, on Q1 as the seconds run down. 3, 2, 1, and there we go. So anybody who crosses the line now will not be able to start another lap. This is it for everybody. Those outside of the top 10, are they going to be making it through? Well, it looks like for all the money that RSR are going to make it through with their by Primus car, the 68. By G Performance, they look like they're going to make it through as well. But just looking towards some of them down the order, I think Impulse Racing might, well, at least still out there on the circuit. Whether they are going any quicker or not is another question, really. But it doesn't look like it to me. So it looks like we have our top 10 set in stone. As I mentioned, the 2 RSR cars, Maniti Racing are there, Olympus Esports, Ronin Academy, one of the Impulse Racing cars, Team RSO by 5-Star, Project Dynamic, Full Send Racing, and the other Team RSO car. Both of the RSO Audis managed to get inside of the top 10, and this car coming over the line right now can do anything about that, and I don't believe so, because I haven't spotted anybody going quickly enough to make their way inside of the top 10, although you never know. I somehow doubt it. Well, we are in a small intermission here. We've got just over 3 minutes before qualifying 2 begins and the real money session begins. We've got a driver coming in for a quick interview at the moment while we're waiting around. Sumu is going to be not a driver, sorry, series organizer. Excuse me, sorry about that. Series organizer Julian Bell. Sumu is going to be chatting to.
Hey Julian, do you have a copy?
Hey guys, yep, can hear you now.
Yeah, it's been a few months, man. How are you doing? Firstly, pumped up for the new year, I can imagine. How are things going with you?
Yeah, man, things are going well. Good to hear you guys' voices again and be back here. Yeah, it's been a busy off season and things are in full swing now. We've got all the other series are underway, and off to really cracking starts in all of them. And the Club Cup race yesterday was insane. It was so great.
Yeah.
And really looking forward to this kicking off now for what I think is going to be a really intense season. Just listening to you guys talking about who's on the grid right now and the qualifying times and how close everything is. Like I think we're in for a treat.
Yeah, we seriously are, Julian. It's going to be a mad year for sure. What excites you the most about the HyperX GT Sprint Series this year, per se? Because last year, we remember it being quite a crazy one.
It was, yeah, and it came down to the wire at Mosport, which was awesome. And I think we could probably expect to see the same thing here. I think it's kind of grown in a little bit, and so we've got some more teams and some more drivers on here who have all got pace to do well. I think that combined with having multiple different classes, allowing drivers that are at that really high level to compete, and then also people who are still a little bit newer competing in the AM division, and then having HyperX on as the series title sponsor, and being able to have some prizes, some really great prizes, I think, for those who finish on the podium in each one of the 3 classes, as well as being able to give away prize packs for spectators is pretty awesome. So I think a lot of good things in store for the season.
Absolutely. You can check out that link to the giveaway in the comments. It's all pinned, by the way, on the YouTube chat. But Julian, for all those who are new to IVRA, they might be a bit confused seeing the likes of Hungaroring, the likes of Barber on the calendar. Well, why do we go to places like this? I know the answer, but just it's for those who are joining in right now.
Yeah, I think it's nice to challenge people with things they might not necessarily be so well acquainted with from official races. And a lot of the tracks that are on here are really amazing tracks, especially for GT specific series. Some of them, it's great flow. There's a lot of space in some of them compared to others that are tight. They're going to challenge you differently that way. So I think that's really what we were looking for, is to give the drivers the greatest challenge that they could have with tracks that don't often see in official races.
Yeah, it's great to hear. And Julian, finally, before we let you go, I have to ask the question: who would you put your money on as the favorite? It's going to be a bit of a hard one, of course, being the series organized, but still, give it a shot. Who do you reckon? Maybe 2 or 3 times, perhaps.
I think this is great, putting me on the spot as the organizer here. Right? I think we'll see RSR for sure come out, you know, guns blazing, especially with the way the season finished last year. I think they're gonna have something to prove, and I think, you know, they've got the team for it that can be battling up there again. I think for sure Maniti will see up in the ranks. I think the RSO and 5-star collaboration is gonna be interesting, and you know, as you move further down the field, like, I think there's other teams too that in the Pro-Am and Am classes that are going to be good, and some newer teams that I'm looking forward to seeing too. So, you know, definitely good luck to all, and it's not a comprehensive list I just gave, that's for sure.
No, awesome stuff, Julian. Hope to see you around on the broadcast board a couple of other times as well throughout the season. Great to speak to you, mate. Have a good evening, and hopefully it's a bit of a calm evening with race controlling. My bad.
Definitely a bit slower for us, that's for sure. Yeah, so a bit of a nice break. But thanks for having me, guys, and I'm sure we'll talk during the season.
Awesome. Have a great day, mate.
Yeah.
Thanks very much to Julian Bell for coming for a chat in the little intermission for qualifying. That was quite a cruel question though there, Sumi. I've got to be honest, it was a bit mean, but no, it was well answered anyway. Yeah, we'll hopefully, as you say, talk to him throughout the season as it begins to unfold. And speaking of unfolding, that's exactly what we're going to be seeing over the next few minutes here in Q2, because we've now got the best 15 cars we've seen so far in the practice and the qualifying sessions out there on the circuit. And I guess the big question we've got to pose is, can anybody displace Tim Matsuki at the moment? He's flying right now.
That is right, yeah. It's crazy to see the Maniti momentum so early on in this race. And the fun part is the races are still yet to come. This is just qualifying, and Maniti are often known for their race pace and how they manage things over there. So that can be a little bit of a daunting thing, but I don't think it's something to worry about. I don't think anyone is going to run away with even a single race anytime this year. And I know you might be saying, well, Samuel, you bring me back too much to the last year. But, well, we saw this happen so many times last year that we saw races where everyone were finishing in around a margin of 5 odd seconds. That is going to be ridiculously close. And what makes it more fun is that the grid is even more competitive this year. So I don't see it happening even much, not even today.
It certainly seems to be very competitive indeed as Maniti Racing's Tim Matsuki makes his way out of Turn 1 for the first time here in Q2. Maniti Racing, let's not forget, are, as you said earlier, regulars in other IVRA competitions. I seem to remember the ClubSport race we had a few weeks ago at Motegi, the 700-kilometre race there. They were pretty competitive in the Porsche Cup class throughout the day, and I think they had some bad luck along the way, but they had a decent run of things anyway. And as you mentioned, stalwarts of IVRA competition making their way into the HyperX GT Sprint Series, which is what we like to see, of course, and making a good start. I'm very interested to see how those bottom 5 teams do, though. The teams that made it in practice didn't have to do anything in qualifying. How are they going to perform after, 20-30 minutes away from actually being at the steering wheel?
Yeah, that's such a good factor. That really is a good factor. A lot of us are different people, right, in terms of our character. Some people prefer taking a bit of a rest and coming back to it. That makes them a little bit fresher. Some just cannot stay away. They just need to be on the wheel doing something. Fact is, you can't leave a session and go and practice on your own somewhere else. You've got to sit away and listen to us. I hope it's not a bad thing, but still, the fact is, for some people, it can be a bit of a crazy experience to get back after that break when the adrenaline is flowing through you. That is going to be a genuinely hard thing to do for drivers who feel something like that. And then coming back, getting used to the conditions.
Yeah, Tim Matske goes ever so slightly quicker, as we've seen a number of other times coming from those in practice. Clearly, Adam Isaacson was not phased by that for 5-star Motorsport HyperX. He has got just under half a second behind. He's now into second place in the number 5 Porsche. Also, Impulse Racing 63 car have got themselves into 4th position after that one. So a couple of those 5 have managed to get themselves into the top 5. The Talk Freak Racing car has only managed 13th, so clearly not coping well with that time away from the steering wheel. Pure Sims haven't left the pit lane yet, to my knowledge, and Kazar Sim Racing have not set a lap time yet. So clearly, as you mentioned, it is a pretty much half and half deal. Some are enjoying the time away and are coming back fresher, and some are going to take a bit of time to get their eye in again, which is pretty much exactly demonstrating what you're saying. But what I'm very impressed with is the spread of manufacturers up towards the front. We've got Audi, Porsche, BMW and Lamborghini at the moment in the top 4.
Yeah, there goes all the BOP talk in the bin, yeah. And honestly, it's good to see. It's good to see. iRacing have been applauded a little bit for how they've handled the BOP in terms of sprint racing over the course of the last few months. In endurance, let's not talk about Spa 24, but to see this diversity, it is outstanding. It shows you what GT3 racing really is all about and what it should be all about. But keep this in mind, it's still qualifying. This order might change, and what I find really crazy, Ewan, is that so many teams are so many different for different reasons, for picking their cars. Some pick it with a lot of technical analysis. Some say, right, this car is better in the long runs and our drivers are more suited to the long runs at certain circuits, XYZ. I remember last year, we had one of the teams picking the Ford GT purely because the second driver didn't have any other car. Simple as that.
It really we do sometimes overthink it here in the commentary box, but yeah, that is a rare occurrence, I have to be honest. What I would say though about this season, especially the fall season, is there's not many wide open circuits. We were talking about the circuits with Julian a few moments ago. We're not using the kind of icons of GT3 racing, the classic. The only one really is Bathurst, where they hold the 12-hour, and obviously it's synonymous with GT3 racing, especially in the last few years. But we've not got many circuits like that. Hungaroring, very twisty. Barber, very twisty. Oulton Park, the same deal. Same with Belle Isle, Brands Hatch. Maybe a little bit of straight line speed will come into effect at Montreal, but that has really got to affect the car choices. The fact that the wide open and long straights kind of circuits are just not on the calendar, especially for the fall.
Yeah, no, that's so true, which makes it a certain style of driving. Now, of course, all the drivers are good in the corners, yes, that's true, but some drivers prefer a certain type of car. Including sometimes, to be honest, even the Fords, which might be a bit of a tank in the straights. But we've not got a Ford here this time. So it all comes down to how you manage your setups, how you manage your car per se, but more the focus on the cornering, which is what GT racing should be all about. But I find it really crazy that we've got such a mad lineup for the fall season. It's all tight and twisty corners, but we will still see overtaking, which you might not expect from some other categories.
Well, they're going to have to, because for the second race, the guy who wins the first one's going to be 20th, so we'll see how that unfolds, and we'll get into that in a few moments' time when we do get into the races. This is the number 5 car. Adam Isaacson is driving very well at the moment, I've got to be honest. Only just under half a second behind Tim Matske. He's getting himself ready for his second lap so far of Q2. And we'll be monitoring him. Kazar Sim Racing, by the way, Johnny Waters, the only British driver of the Kazar Sim Racing team over all 3 cars, is driving that one at the moment. He's currently 14th, I'm afraid, not really getting his eye in after the break that they've had. Pure Sims, we're still waiting for the first time in from those guys, so clearly a couple are struggling. As I say that, Pure Sims jumped themselves up to 4th, so Ross McFarlane wasn't in a hurry, but he certainly was very effective when he managed to get his lap time in there.
Indeed, Pure Sims doing what Pure Sims are always known to do. That is a good opening lap, a very strong and solid one. Let's see if they've got more in the bank to get out there and perhaps challenge the top 3. Right now, the gaps are very marginal, right? You can see Pure Sims only separated by 1/100th of a second. That is what it really should be all about.
Yeah, absolutely. The gap from first to second really is an anomaly. After that, it's just completely crazy. We'll see if Adam J. Isaacson can do anything about it here. because he's the man best placed to do it in the Porsche. As he makes his way through the middle sector, the Porsche does seem a little bit oversteery, a little bit loose on entry into turn 11 there. It really does struggle on occasion into that corner. We've seen it with a couple of cars now as he goes a tiny bit wide through 12 as well. He doesn't look like he's quite pushing it into the braking zones as much as he was before. There's no nonsense racing get themselves up into 9th, and he does go into the pit lane here in the number 5, so clearly not quite going as well as he was hoping for, but some others have been able to go pretty quickly in the last couple of moments. As I mentioned, no nonsense racing with Aiden Shadbolt into 9th position in that number 20 car. What about RSR? They were so close last season. They were hoping to go one better on this occasion, but it's always difficult coming back to a championship you so narrowly missed out on the year previous.
Yeah. No, you're absolutely right with it. It takes up a lot of mental energy to structure a championship properly. Sometimes you give it your all once, but it's hard to maintain the consistency after that. I wouldn't say one-hit wonder, but teams can often do that because they get so drained out. But not RSR. When you normally expect someone to lose a championship, you expect a top team like RSR to bounce back stronger, and they have. Instead of just 2 cars, now they have got 3. It's a clear sign, it's a clear statement of intent that RSR are not taking this lightly. They want the win badly, and they'll do anything that's, of course, legally in the limits for that. And so they've got another car in here.
Yeah, they have. They're really taking a charge to this one. And so yeah, we're looking forward to it. 2 RSR cars made it into the top 15. By the way, the other one, 20th in qualification. They're missing out on the top 10, I'm afraid, so they weren't able to get into this section of qualifying, of which there is only just over 3.5 minutes to go. But it's still Maniti Racing holding a comfortable lead. 5-Star Motorsport second, Pure Sims in third, with Ross McFarlane, who was not out there immediately, well, wasn't going particularly quickly early on in this session, but he's finding his feet now. Although he's going into the pit lane as we speak, he is starting to find his feet in this session. It just looks like we're in a bit of a holding pattern with everybody getting themselves ready for their final lap times. There's a lot of people pulling into pit lane and waiting to try and be the last man over the line here, but obviously not everyone can be, as Thomas Cope just gets a wheel on the grass, and that's going to be the end of his qualifying session.
Yep, exactly. Not a bad place for them to be in, to be honest with you, all things considered. But yeah, not the right way to end for Olympus Esports and Thomas Cope. Tanga van der Wegge will try again for Ronin Academy. This is going to be one of their final few shots. Does he get an improvement though?
Not on this occasion, but given he was going so wide through that final corner, I would hazard a guess he's going to go for it again right now. Into turn 1 he goes in the Lamborghini, and so far so good, but limited amount of things can go wrong. It's really where, in the middle sector, where things get a little bit more tricky. He heads down into turn 2. A good overtaking opportunity certainly through turn 3, which is pretty much flat out as you take the right line anyway. And then into turn 4, where the real difficult stuff begins.
Yeah, that's the fun part of the Hungaroring. So firstly with this quick left hand, and then he spins it around, gets on the AstroTurf perhaps.
Just about going a little bit too wide and smashing into the barriers, I'm afraid, as we've just seen at the top of your screen. Maniti Racing extending their lead in this qualifying session. Tim Matske, a 1 minute 42.1, pushing it out of sight almost of the number 5 team here, and Adam Isaacson, he's going to try his best anyway. Into the chicane he goes once again, but there's a limited amount of things he can do here, the Swedish driver. He is going to struggle to get onto the pole, but at least maintaining the front row, I guess, is where he needs to be right now.
It's amazing you say that. 5-Star Motorsport are a rather new team in a way, only formed some 10 odd months ago. And I would say this is one of their first few proper leagues that they're competing in. And already in qualifying, to be second at this stage is quite a remarkable thing. But I think they can go that a little bit better in the race. Maybe P1 is an opportunity. Let's see if they can grab that spot right now in qualifying.
into the final corner. He's at least going to consolidate P2 here because Pure Sims are yet to come with just under a minute to go. But over the line goes Isaacson, and it's a slight improvement by 27 thousandths of a second. He does slightly edge his nose onto that front row. What about Pure Sims? RSR by Primus. What about Impulse Racing in the 63? Because Daniel Sommer's just got himself into third position there in front of Ross McFarlane and indeed Ole Steinbraten, who we saw briefly there, but he wasn't going all that quickly by the looks of things. Tim Matske enters the pit lane for the final time. He looks happy with his day, as we see Pure Sims, Ross McFarlane leaving it as late as possible, and so is another one of the RSR cars. I believe there's a number of guys leaving this very late. This qualifying session is all going to come to a head. I think it's only going to be over second place, but it's all going to come very late.
Indeed, yeah. It's just about to go, and drivers always waiting for the right moment. And Ole Steinbraten, well, he's packed up and gone back home. Yeah, session ends, that's why.
Yes, indeed it does. No time for another lap for those guys. We'll be seeing the starting grid in a few moments' time for this race. Tim Matske and Maniti Racing going to be alongside 5-Star Motorsport on the front row. Impulse Racing with that late time gets in front of Ross McFarlane for third. Then we've got RSR by Primus and RSO by 5-Star in 5th and 6th position. Olympus Esports might be a little bit disappointed with 7th compared with their Q1 performances. Ronin Academy alongside them. No Nonsense Racing and RSR by G Performance rounding out the top 10. Head of Project Dynamic and Full Send Racing for your top 12. Then we've got another of the RSO cars. Team Talk Freak Racing couldn't really get going in Q2, I'm afraid. Neither could Kazar Sim Racing, who round out the top 15. Then those guys who missed out on Q2. Impulse Racing's 257 ahead of Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport. VC Sim Racing Vert also in 18th. Westwards Racing Esports alongside Vector by RSR to round out your top 20. Mag Performance and Kazar Sim Racing's 27 car on the next row ahead of World of Sim Racing and another of the Impulse Racing Lamborghinis on the 12th row. Then we have Frederick Lofertz alongside Martin Tilling on the row 13. Another of the World of Sim Racing cars ahead of N-Race Esports next, followed by Olympus Esports and Kazar Sim Racing's 26 car, rounding up the top 30. Finally, we get to the end of the grid with V-Racers, BST, V Esports, Rusty Spatulas, oh my word, and VC Sim Racing Rouge round out your 34 car grid for this race at the Hungaroring. 2 1-hour events. For race 2, we're going to be reversing the top 20, but it's a straight fight here for race 1. What a grid we've assembled. That was fantastic.
Really was some proper big names in the world of sim racing coming out here and coming together for some high-class GT3 action. I'm only saying it was about time. It took so many months for the HyperX IVRA GT Sprint Series to come back again, but we've picked a good track, we've got a good grid. What more could you ask for?
Yes, we've left it late, but we're going to be squeezing in 6 rounds of racing before the year's close in December, and by all accounts, from the qualifying session, it looks like it's going to be a good one. 4 manufacturers in the top 4, a new season in front of us, and the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series is set to get underway. Tim Matske holds the field for a very long time indeed. They all fan out from behind, but he finally releases the throttle and he goes into the lead by a car length already. In the Audi, he's able to take his own line, as on the inside in the Lamborghini there, Impulse Racing, a flying start. Flying around the outside is Ross McFarlane as well in the Pure Sims Esports BMW. He's doing a good job. Further on behind, it strings out and it spreads out, but a very clean start through turn 1 there. Not a good start, I have to say, for Isaacson in the 5-Star Motorsport Porsche. He's lost 2 places already.
That's right, they're dipping down. They were sandwiched at one point, which is why things did not work out.
Into the wall, one of the Porsches, I think it might be Talk Freak Racing, who have gone into the wall here in this one, but it's certainly not a good moment for them. They're going to be repairing the damage, presumably, of that. That was a fairly hefty hit coming out of turn 3, and we've got more drama with World of Sim Racing's Marco Pereira spinning around at turn 5.
Oh my, bit of a tough start for Quasar Sim Racing and World of Sim Racing. Both of them having few incidents early on. What I see right now, though, is some crazy battling happening on the midfield. There was Impulse perhaps making a move at those tricky S's after the chicane. How do you do that over there? Seriously.
Yes, absolutely. Very, very impressive. It wasn't Talk Freak Racing, by the way, as initially reported. As you say, it was Quasar Sim Racing who spun around into the wall the first time of asking, and then World of Sim Racing with Marco Pereira not getting his season off to a great start. But Tim Matske certainly is. He's got over a second's lead over Daniel Sommer, who's made a good start, and there is the number 8 Audi already with 5 car lengths at least over the chasing pack. Daniel Sommer has got a big job on his hands right now. Ross McFarlane and Adam Isaacson, first of all. Ollie Steinbratton is also there as they run down in towards turn number 1. There's your positional change. Not too much up towards the front. The real notable one is the number 5 car, but now the race begins to settle down. We get single file, and you look around, assess the situation, and then go from there.
Indeed you do. This first couple of laps is all about seeing how many positions you can gain in, because of course throughout the race as it goes on, the gaps will build up. This is the closest that the cars will be at any one point in the race. So if you're going to be aggressive, maybe now is the time for something quite like that. So let's see who actually has got the, I wouldn't say guts to do it, but who's actually got the sustained guts to keep it up and to make that right move at the right place. And I emphasize on the place because that really matters here at the Hungaroring.
You've got to pick your moments. We saw this a week or so ago, if you joined us for the VRS GT Sprint Series, as we look at Johnny Waters in the Quasar Sim Racing Hydra car. Just a small clip really on his rear, and that was it for him.
Well, what really pains me is that Quasar Sim Racing, Hydra, the entire team, they've got 3 entries. They were really pinning their efforts and their hopes on this pro car that they've got right now. And then Marco Pereira doing something similar just a couple of corners later.
Yeah, got a little bit loose on the turn 4 curve as we saw in qualifying. And it got hit from behind a little bit as well, but he was sent around. Impulse Racing hit here on a replay. Not sure what's going to happen to them, but it looks all fine for them at the moment. They're in 23rd position at the moment, and getting off to a clean start by the looks of things. So a new fastest lap, Tim Matske going with a 43.0. That's faster than some people were doing in qualifying, and he's doing it with a full load of fuel right now. There can be no doubt about the talent in the German out front at the moment, but further on behind it's much more of a fist fight really as we go down the inside. One of the Porsches trying to gain place. Oh, contact! Tanguy van der Vliegen has just gone for a wide moment there, and there's more wide moments, I'm afraid, going on at turn 1.
Rusty Spatula's involved in that one, as you could see. Something has happened. Perhaps maybe a move going down the inside that went sour rather quickly. I see someone going outside. That's Tanguy van der Vliegen, isn't it?
Oh, it's chaos. It is chaos at turn 5. Tanguy van der Vliegen has not had a good start to this race as he rejoins the circuit, tries to do it in a safe way, but didn't quite achieve it as he gets in front of the World of Sim Racing car. And this is a very tight spot into the chicane as well, not really where you want to be. We'll try and get to the bottom of all of that as well here in the replays. First of all, the Rusty Spatula's incident. Here, he's just going to get hit from behind there, basically. Just a misjudgment into turn 1 and a second hit for good measure. 7-2-3. Now, what's gone on here? Ronin Academy, and, well, this is Van der Vliegen's second incident of the day, and he rejoins the circuit, gets into the side of the BMW that sent him out wide in the first place.
Yeah, no. I'm no racing expert, but that has to be one of the more unclean rejoins that you could see right here. Here's what happened to Garrett Thompson and Quasar. No. They all just converge. All the lines just converge at the Hungaroring. And you can't even afford a minor speed difference right here, because someone will come in and bulldoze you if that's the case. And I guess that's what we saw in all 3 incidents. One of them, yeah, maybe even wrong. But stuff just happens. Sometimes mistakes happen. I know that Tanguy and Ronin will bounce back a little bit stronger from that one.
Yeah, indeed. Let's hope so. Anyway, we're just over 5 minutes into the race, and we've had a whole race worth of incidents so far. Well, not incidents, but certainly a lot of drama with the certainly the battle for second place and everything going on behind. This is that battle for second I was mentioning, headed by Daniel Sommer, who doesn't really have the pace to get away from everybody else, but Ross McFarlane behind doesn't really have the pace to overtake the Impulse Racing car up in front, so they're kind of stuck with each other just for the moment. 5-Star Motorsport and RSR by Prisms have got to watch on from behind, as has the RSO car just in here as well. No Nonsense Racing not too far behind. Olympus Esports, the other RSR car. They're all here, but not a lot is able to really happen at the moment, and it's a similar situation further down the field.
That is right. It's perfectly about what you said early on, Ewan, about picking your moments. And so far the moments have been slightly messy for a few of the teams, but I think at the top they will be a little bit more pragmatic with it. They know exactly when to bounce, exactly when to strike, and if you are someone like Sommer, exactly where and when to defend as well, which is what makes all this series, all the battling, all the drama, even more fun to watch. And that is where the competition will get even better. For this race, a bit of a spoiler alert, you're not going to see 1,000 overtakes, you're not going to see Formula E type overtaking happening right here. You're going to see intense competition. Sometimes that just might be hard defending, and that is something that we're going to see right now at the top of the field.
We just were with Isaacson there, I believe, into turn one. He was certainly taking a little bit of a strange line, but he's back onto the racing line here once again. Tim Matchke, as if his race wasn't going good enough already, is still got even bigger of a lead because of this battle. As speaking of battles, Cedric Nebelsiek gets up into what is 11th position now, just in front of the Lamborghini, flashing his lights at him. Marco Jäger in the Impulse Racing Lamborghini there, not too pleased with being overtaken, but in the shots we saw, I didn't see anything too wrong with that.
Yeah, exactly. It'll be a bit of a fight back for Marco Jäger and Impulse Racing because immediately up ahead got Team RSO, and RSO are a hard nut to crack everywhere. Whether you go in LMP2s, whether you go in GT3s, GTEs, they will be a tough team that'll play by the spirit of the racing. Yeah, that got a little bit tricky in the first round of the Endurance Series, but normally they do stuff like that quite well. And so, this battle is just not what you'd expect for P13 or P14. You see these names right here, but here we are.
Into turn 12, Aiden Chabot battling away with the first of the RSO cars in the order, but not able to get through on that occasion. It's opened up a little bit of a gap to the four in front, who are absolutely nose to tail and glued together at the moment, but the pressure is certainly being applied by the number 20 Porsche, trying to get through on the Audi in front. Let's see if there's a dive into turn one. A bit of bravery under brakes needed, and Chabot has certainly got it. Got his nose alongside and gets his whole car alongside, and indeed in front into turn one. A textbook move, really, that looked like it was coming.
Yeah, I'll say it first. No nonsense. That's what they were in that move right now. Quasar defending half though, which is amazing.
They were indeed the Ferrari, 111 Ferrari, I think that was, just behind of Mac Performance Jr. Kazar Sim Racing, Isaac Barkley that was driving that car on the defensive into turn one. You should have saved that line for the No Nonsense Racing team a little bit later on, but we'll wait and see if we can get to use that one. I also seem to be falling back a little bit here because Thomas Cope is starting to apply the pressure to Nebelsiek just up in front of him. Sorry, that's the other RSO car. Mats Fogh Husveld is the driver of the RSO car on our screens right now. As you mentioned earlier, converted Husveld driver from last season anyway, and so it's not really been used to having to defend that much since they were winning a fair few of the races last time out. But yeah, they're not towards the front on this again. Well, they are, I guess, towards the front, but not on the front as they're used to being in the pack this time, and it's a different skill, certainly.
You're so right about that. They were very much dominant in many of the cases, and then going back in the reverse grid was more on how you can get the right positions at the right time rather than defending. So that's a bit of a new experience for Max Todd. Not entirely, but still, in this particular championship, one can say so. But I'm still taking time to adapt and see all these familiar names from the GT racing side of iRacing come up together and race so often. What are the drivers? Boris Angelovando, who is one of the stars of the series last year, he is currently in P9 with RSR Esports, and you can only imagine that a couple of moves later, he'll be fighting with last year's defending champions in a way in terms of the drivers. I just love it. I just love how crazy things are being already at the start.
BSTV Esports are probably not loving the fact that there's been craziness going on here. Well, that got a little bit physical through turn 12, and then even more. That was a big dive, and neither of those guys who were making that corner would have Sim Racing able to slip on by, and that will be the easiest overtake they'll have to make all season. But that did look a bit of like two drivers getting a little bit too hot under the collar there, maybe.
Exactly. No, it's all a bit of fun. It's all a bit of fun until someone's race gets wrecked out. Tanguy sends it down the inside, though. That is bold. That is brave.
Very brave, and not a place you often see overtakes made for good reason, really. But he's on a charge that's not to get after that spin earlier. He will be very motivated to overtake everybody and get back towards the front where he was before.
Yeah, exactly. But that was a good move. It worked out in that case, and that was spectacular to see. But this is a matter of really close consideration, because sometimes things can spill over. More on that in a second. Isn't that a carbon copy, Ewan, of the same mistake Marco made at the start, unfortunately?
Yeah, you're not watching a repeat replay there. That was a new mistake from Marco Pereira, but almost an identical one. Thankfully, with slightly less disastrous consequences, and not in front of the entire field on this occasion, but still really not good news for Pereira's race, and that's really going to be playing on his mind for the rest of his stint here. It might only be lasting another 12 minutes or so. We'll get into that in a second, but every time he goes through turn 4, he's going to have his eye on that curve. He's just going to be distracted and obviously not be able to go quite as quickly as he once did.
Yeah, spot on. Really, as a racing driver, you've got to be fearless. You've got to set aside all your fears about a certain corner. And when you make that mistake once, maybe twice in practice, it's okay. But when it happens in a race, it can really hurt your confidence. And I certainly hope that is not the case for Marco, because then, as you rightly mentioned, Ewan, every time you approach that corner, your mind will be distracted. Your mind will think about that crash. And that is not how you go fast. So I hope they're able to shed off that element very, very quickly, because it'll be great to see a team like World of Sim Racing fight at their full potential.
Now, in a 1-hour GT3 race, there's often never any strategic kind of plays to be made. However, these guys do have to make a driver change in this race between 25 minutes into the race and 35 minutes into the race. They've got a 10-minute pit stop window. And around the circuits that we've got on the calendar, it wouldn't be important sometimes at circuits which are very easy to overtake at. However, I feel like it's going to be exceptionally important here at the Hungaroring for these guys on your screen right now. When do you pit? How do you react to those who are pitting? And how are those different pit stops going to play out in this race? I think it's going to be so crucial to how this race pans out in the end.
Got to agree with you. In the end, it's all about clean air in this case. So, spoiler alert, track conditions will not change by much. It's not going to be like Formula 1 where you get a new tire compound or anything quite like that. Just on the driver and the clean air. Now, let's take a realistic example. Say, for instance, you are Max Kurtzfeld in the RSO by 5-star car. Currently, say you're sitting in P number 6 on the back of a very big train, but you want to get ahead, you want to get past. So, what do you do in this case? You might try to do something different. You can go in the pit lane, you can go for a box and look for that clean air. Because give a car like that some clean air and they might rack in some superb lap times. And so that is where all the strategy in this race might come from.
And it all starts in 10 minutes time when that pit stop window will indeed open. But of course, it's not as simple as just getting yourself into the pit lane and immediately being out in clean air. You've got to watch out for those behind you. You can't get caught up in back markers when trying to make an undercut like this. You've got to. This is where a good strategist comes into play, working out how long is our pit stop going to take, where are we going to come out, and making sure that is not behind a group of cars, because then you're just kind of solving your one problem by creating another one, really.
Spot on. You absolutely nailed it with that one. And sometimes it might be beneficial for you to stay late on, maybe until later, because that's the gaps clear up. So there's no right strategy per se. It's just on how you can make it work eventually in this train. And tires, they don't become a major problem as well. Again, it's just something that a GT3 car will be very much used to, because of course in endurance racing they can go for longer. But here's a sin.
Aiden Chabot again sending it, this time into the top 5. Didn't give RSR much space on the exit there, as they were kind of expecting to hold it around the outside, but weren't able to. Now Husfeld for the RSO team is going to try and go around the outside there. Couldn't quite do it though, and I don't think he really wanted to either, because Thomas Cope is right on his back bumper at the moment, and if indeed that went wrong, then the Olympus Esports car would be able to jump in front of RSO, and obviously Husfeld doesn't want that. So they get back into single file again, but Chabot has been one of the more impressive drivers from this opening stint, I have to say. Not the best qualifying for those guys, but no nonsense racing, up 4 places in this race so far.
That's right. If you're good enough in the race, doesn't matter where you... I mean, it does matter, but not as much as it should if you've got this sort of talent. And I really want to see what Adrian Shadbolt can do once we have the reverse grids in the second race. That is going to be a tasty sight. But no, you're right. So fast, so good for no nonsense.
Absolutely, they're going to be swapping over, and Jakob Pedersen is going to be driving that number 20 car over the second stint in this race. The battle for 14th is carrying on in a similar vein as to the one for second right now. Westwood Racing Esports are currently heading it in their 87 car. That's another one of the teams that have made great strides up the field. 5 places from their 19th spot off of the start. And VEC Sim Racing in a similar situation in terms of the positions that they've gained. It's been 3 since the start for them, and they're now into 15th, just through avoiding the chaos, I'd imagine. But they do have Vector by RSR for company right now, so they do have to be careful. But what they are going to be enthused by is the fact that they're inside the top 20. Very important indeed, but I'll explain that in a moment, because RSR side by side with Olympus here once again. Nothing doing for Thomas Cope on this occasion. But yeah, as I was saying, the top 20, very important, because if you're inside of there, then that is what is reversed for race 2. So those guys are going to find themselves towards the front when they start the second race of the evening.
Keep an eye on that. Genuinely keep an eye on that battle between Mac Performance, Vector RSR and Quasar Sim Racing, because eventually they might be your pole sitters in the top starters in a way in your second race that's going to come up. By the way, things get really heated between them though. Really heated.
It's looking like that at the moment on the right-hand side of your screen, as there was battles going on into turn 2. I think that might be the slightly damaged Quasar Sim Racing car, or maybe it was the other one who went into the wall, but they look kind of similar. That's a dive and a half. Oh, and it's not paid off, I'm afraid. Into turn 5, both of them have gone spinning around. That was a low percentage lunge, and it didn't pay off, I'm afraid.
Yeah, exactly. Too much of a risky move. You've got to time that out to perfection. Not that I could, but in this case, it didn't quite work out. Well, stuff just happens sometimes when you're racing so hard. But luckily, time is on their side. 40 minutes is not a bad period to recover if you're quick enough.
Yeah, absolutely. There's plenty of time there. Let's have a look at the replay. Just far too far back. You see more than a car length behind going into the braking zone. That is too far back.
Yeah. No, that generally is, especially at that corner. Turn number 1, still somewhat understandable, but not quite there.
No, absolutely not, as the battle for the final spot inside of the top 10 is really on right now. Talk Freak Racing trying to hold on to that one, but Team RSO not letting them as they go down the inside into 2, and into 10th place goes the 197 car. Right now, trying to chase down their teammates and get up towards where they are. It would be good for them as they go a little bit wide into 4, and maybe this battle's not quite over just yet as Talk Freak starts to apply the pressure again. A good run through turn 5 might present an opportunity, but turn 6 is not really an overtaking opportunity either, and so they stay behind for the moment. But a respectable race for RSO at the moment, I guess. Having both cars inside the top 10 is something to be pleased about.
Yeah, 100%. That's what RSO are known for in a way. So it's good to see them have 2 of their cars in there. I suppose, aren't they the only team to do... No, they're not. There's RSR Esport by G Performances. See, basically, have 2 RSs at the start of your name and you might just have a good chance of having 2 cars in the top 10. That seemingly is the trend for now. Let's see if it continues for the long run.
it is a bit of a scary trend going on as things stand. By the way, as well, in terms of, it's a bit too early for championship talk, but I do just want to mention one more piece of kind of housekeeping as we get this season underway. The top 25 score points in the championship. It's the kind of standard, or these days, the standard IVRA point system that we see in all of the championships. But it's slightly different to how it was last season. It was 200 points for a win last season, but now it's only 100. Points go all the way down to 25th position in these races. So if you are inside the top 25, then you will be able to score points. However, the kind of points are quite heavily weighted towards those at the front. First to second, the gap is 10 points, so a win is very, very not only good for bragging rights and all that, but it's also you do take a big step forward in the championship.
Generally, it's how it should be. There should be a real reward for finishing P1. Some championships have P1 25, P2 21, yeah? But only 4 points are not making that daring extra move that we all know racing drivers to do. No, that's not what it should be like. It's good to see this sort of points divide. And you know what's really crazy? When P5 just gets 66 points. So you really have to make everything work out, right? How do you explain something like this to, say, No Nonsense Racing, who are P5 right now, literally within touching distance of, say, P number 2, and the points difference between them and P2 is, let me try my math right now, 24 points. 24 points for almost a couple of seconds worth of driving. That is just insane.
But then again, you can come into the final race of the season at Montreal, 190 points behind, and still have a chance. So that is the kind of upside to it. There's obviously pros and cons, but yeah, you can. There's a lot of points on offer. We'll put it that way. And this is the fight for the final few of them. At the moment, World of Sim Racing are going to be grabbing 3 from the day, but Impulse Racing want to take them off them. And so oh goodness, that was late on the brakes for Olympus, and even later on the brakes in the background there. I think there might have been contact, and at the very least, a close moment between and it was too close for comfort actually. Marco Silva looks like he's gone for a spin around. We'll see if he was the one trying to make the move or the innocent bystander in the party there, but not good to see. Let's have a look. He was an innocent bystander, I'm afraid. Late on the brakes, and too late really for making a move at that kind of corner.
Yeah, no, let's be honest, it was a bit of a messy move from Quasar Sim Racing, much like what we saw from them at turn number 5 as well. So perhaps just the red miss, perhaps just not getting the right momentum in there, so sometimes your moves just end up being too clunky. Whatever it is, you hope that this stays in race number 1, right? Stuff happens at times, but yeah, it's impacting far too many people to be just stuff in a way.
Yeah, there is a short break between the 2 races for people to compose themselves, so hopefully one race doesn't kind of affect the other, if you see what I mean here. We've got 1 minute to go until the pit stop window opens, by the way, so these guys are not going to be able to take it on this occasion past pit lane, but next time around we'll be seeing the first few pit stops in this race. And I guess if you're in this train here, Sumo, who would you say should be pitting first time around? Who should be in straight away here?
I'll be honest, it has to be 5-star. They're just right in the middle of it. What's the worst that could happen? The worst that could happen is they can drop all the way back down to P number 9 because the gaps are so close back in. But 5-star want to attack right now. They don't want to be busy defending from No Nonsense. And the one way you can make a difference, the one way you can try, is by going in the pits. But I get a feeling once one person goes, everyone goes in. That's the sort of feeling that it could be eventually happening.
Yeah, I think you might be right on that one, because it does tend to happen like that. As one comes in and you have to react, really, because of the undercut. Pit window is open right now. We're probably going to be seeing the first few pit stops. We have actually seen one pit stop already in this race for Niobe by Awesome Motorsport. Frederick Lofertz has not had a good start to this one. He's currently only completed a lap, I believe, in this race, and so, or a lap or 2 anyway. He's still in the pit lane. I don't think they've given up quite on being in the race so far, but they're not going to complete 90% distance anyway. They're not going to get points, and so it's going to be difficult for them, certainly. But the real first pit stops will be coming up very shortly. We're just coming through the end of the middle sector for the latest time of asking, and now into turn 12 they're going to go. No moves made by Chabot there. I guess it's too close to the pit stop window for these moves to be made, if indeed there are going to be pit stops right now. We're going to see pit entry coming up very shortly. There it is on the right-hand side of your screen. Who is going to take it? Well, nobody. In the biggest anticlimax of the race so far, there's nobody who's really willing to take a risk here.
Yeah, no, they got us hanging in there. Maybe they'll take it later on. I actually imagine someone might. That explains why I'm standing right here and commentating, why they are the ones driving and doing such a good job. Oh, look at this.
Aiden Chabot late on the brakes, as he has been multiple times in this race so far. Does it on the latest occasion. 5-star motors who have just been going backwards ever since qualifying. Isaacson not having a good time of things right now, and he's down to 5th position. Another textbook move from Chabot, who's driving very well at the moment. And speaking of driving well, Ross McFarlane is looking to end his stint on a high right now.
He is going for it. It's a hard one, isn't it?
Very, very, very wide there as well, and now he's going to be on the defensive from Chabot, who's on the offensive right now, although Isaacson has kind of deflated that move a little bit. He might even go for it into the chicane here. Not quite. So there was an attempt made on the Lamborghini on the outside there, but it's always going to be difficult to hang it around the outside of turn 4.
Genuinely, that's one corner where you don't want to be making a move unless you are Lewis Hamilton in his Mercedes from earlier this year. He was on fire. But more on this one, more on the GT3s. It's a hard ask to get such a big pace difference at that corner right there. Unless perhaps it's a lap car or some car with damage, but that usually doesn't really happen around here.
Not too often as we go into the final sector again. It's going to be Daniel Sommer with a lot of defending to do here once again from Ross McFarlane. Either nobody's really willing to take a risk here, or you're going to come out in traffic if indeed you do take a pit stop. So those are the two things. We've got about just over 30 seconds in terms of your actual stationary time, just under a minute, lane time. Well, what's that going to add up to? About 45-50 seconds of a loss maybe. And I think they're pretty much right. They are going to come out in traffic if indeed they do pit here. Thankfully for them, some of those further down are pitting now, so the track is opening up behind them.
Exactly, and that is what they want. Maybe the right chance to unleash their true pace. If that's all you need, and there we are, the lone stopper, seeing Impulse come in. What can they do from here? Let's track their lap time. Let's see what they've actually got in store right now. That's Naudi from Awesome Moves. Hands up, that's my fault.
Into the chicane again we go for second place. It's all closed up again because of that latest move from Ross McFarlane. But at the moment, it wasn't able to come off, and he's going to have to try again soon enough into the final few corners of this sector. There's absolutely no way through here, but maybe into 12 if he's got a good enough run, and he might well have done. A bit of defence here from Sommer, and now the chance. Ross McFarlane late on the brakes on that BMW. There's a slam into the side of the Lamborghini, and he's still on the inside line, is he? He's just about, oh my goodness me, they're both off the road in a big way, and they've both thrown their race away there. Deary me, they were both driving very well indeed, but they're both off the road now. Aiden Chabot is into second place. RSR make the first pit stop of the day. That was unnecessary.
100%. No, not the pit stops, because for them now they've got clean air. But that accident, why there? Why make a move at that hairpin? Not one, but when there is a genuine realistic chance with the draft at turn number 1. I mean, there is an element of shock to it, but that was perhaps not the place, because Sommer was going to close the door, right? That's what the ideal racing line is. But when a door is closing, yes, you can be brave and go for that line, but 9 out of 10 times it's not going to work out, and in that case, it did. Was it even a door opening over there?
Well, I think there was a very small gap, but it was unlikely to come off, and it didn't in the end for McFarlane. They're both into the pit lane, I believe, at the moment. The two of them, yes, they were indeed. Impulse Racing and Pure Sims, both in the pit lane. That may well mean that they're going to come out right next to each other as well, which might not be a great thing. It's going to be Chris Shorter and also who's going to be getting in for Ross McFarlane. I think they're just exiting the pit lane in a few moments' time. Eric Grove is going to be driving that car. So, they're going to be kind of avenging their teammates' battle. And there they are, I believe, nose to tail, the Lamborghini and the BMW. A little bit further back than where they were before, but they are still together, I believe, at this point.
Honestly, I like the fact that there is a bit of a gap, because otherwise you might need a restraining order of sorts after a move like that. There will be arguments, there will be issues, they will not be happy with each other. Duh, clear fact. But the fun fact is, the leaders are boxing right now, so let's see what part of their lead gets chewed away. We'll get to know in around 3 odd minutes, realistically, about how much time they've lost, but I don't think it's going to be much. They've always had the clear air. They've always had that advantage.
Yeah, Tim Matske, after qualifying on pole position, is pulling into his pit box right now. It's Aiden Shabot getting out of his car. Adam Isaacson likewise. They were 1, 2, 3 in the race just before their respective pit stops. As they make the driver changes, it's going to be Andreas Thiel driving the race-leading Maniti Racing car, also from Germany. And it's going to Maximilian Fritz for 5-Star Motorsport. And for No Nonsense Racing, Jakob Pedersen, as we outlined earlier, is going to be driving that car. Getting excited about 5-Star Motorsport's Maximilian Fritz here at Sumo. What can he produce for us in this next 27 minutes or so?
Some good magic. So for some context, and I don't think Max will like me for saying this, but he was the guy who was working on a lot of Hurstingwell's setup even after he, of course, left the team. Working with the TCR car, working with the GT3 car last year, and fun fact, both of them won their respective championships. This guy knows his car. This guy is the co-founder of the 5-Star Motorsport team, and there might be a bit of a personal element involved because I know him quite well, but he is quick at the wheel of a GT3 car. So watch out for him, and watch out for how he cycles out in that gap, because honestly, you might be the best driver in the world, but when you're constrained by so much traffic up ahead of you, it really makes it hard for you to break away and do what you need to. So far, things are fine, but how will they look when 5-Star come back?
The new race leader of Team RSO into the pit lane, as well as the 69 RSR car. No Nonsense Racing in the number 20, though, have had 5 seconds longer of a pit stop than those around them. And I can't think of an explanation for that myself. I don't quite know why they've spent longer in the pit lane than everybody else, but it has cost them a position to RSR. It might well cost them more positions to some of these guys up towards the front as well. So that is a bit puzzling for No Nonsense Racing.
I can't be extra dying with fuel, to be honest. But why would you? So some teams take marginal amounts of fuel in at times. Some teams sometimes can offer taking 2 tires. I saw that maybe once at the max twice last year. So we've got to wait and watch to see exactly what it is. But normally would be unlikely.
It would indeed.
I can't think of anything else.
No, I can't. It's puzzling me greatly, that one, as everybody leaves the pit lane behind. What about these guys? Maximilian Fritz looks like he's going to be second on the road when Isor Cycle was out, but down the inside very nearly in the RSR car, the RSR by Primus. Oscar Koper has made some great progress here. RSO are into what is going to be 4th. And then Mark McCormack in the RSR by G Performance car is going to be in 5th place, followed by Pedersen in 6th. Although it all kind of depends on where Talk Freak Racing come out. I'd imagine all behind these guys. RSR, after I must say, slightly disappointing qualifying and first portion of the race, they're starting to find their feet and starting the second stint in great fashion here with Oscar Koper.
Yeah, indeed, they are. Oscar de Copo, man, he was quick last year. RSR had quick drivers everywhere with him, with Boris, with Anthony. They were all up there all the time, of course, except for 1 or 2 rounds in the second half, which is where their championship genuinely, I wouldn't say derailed, went slightly off the track. And when you've got teams so competitive, they will capitalize on that. But so far, so good. A very firm start for them, and they're up against 5-Star Motorsport. Let's just take a second out. These are 2 beautiful liveries, guys. They look brilliant.
They do indeed, actually, and there's plenty of representation up towards the front from the RSR livery, especially with another very similar looking car, just about 3 seconds back at the moment. You might be able to see in the background of some of the shots, but into the pit lane for the 81 car, the Talk Freak Racing car. I think they just about made it in the pit window, but it was quite close, well, it was very close, but they just about made it in. And now, down the inside goes Oscar Copa, trying to go through on Maximilian Fritz, who has to go wide and has to give that position away. Into second place then goes RSR. Is he going to come back in? Fritz tried to, but there wasn't really a window there to get through. It was aggressive under brakes, but that BMW is very strong, and Fritz didn't really have anything anything to answer with on the outside line there. He had to give up the place.
Familiar rivals to Maximilian Fritz in the form of RSR Esport by G Performance, but it's good to see already a bit of a budding fight so far in this season, and RSR firmly putting up their command on that move. This is going to be nice, because you know for a fact that there are so many other cars that will be catching up on this battle as they fight harder, as they fight more intensely. And then this comes back into becoming a multi-car train again, which is what we all love and all want to watch. Nice.
It is certainly looking good at the moment, but unlike the first stint where we had Daniel Sommer at the front, and I don't think he was the quickest guy in the train by any means, but Oscar Copa looks to be a bit quicker than Maximilian Fritz at the moment. We still have Andreas Thiel leading this race for Maniti Racing in the Porsche out front, and in the Audi out front, excuse me. We've got BMW then Porsche behind, rounding out your podium. But can Maximilian Fritz keep pace with Copa at the moment is the question. There's a few more battles that are up for grabs a little bit further on behind as well, with Olympus Esports, Pure Sims Esports, who have recovered slightly, and Impulse Racing, who are only half a second behind. This is the battle we saw end in tears at turn 13 a few laps ago, and even though different drivers now on the scene, they are back together again.
A bit like magnets in a way. Let's see if this happens throughout the season, right? Let's see if Pure Sims and Impulse do stick together and do attract each other. And to be honest, good teams always attract each other. So that's going to be something to watch out for as a developing storyline all across the year. But first, Pure Sims have to get past Olympus Esports, and I'm going to try this. It's going to be Lyubov Ozeretskovskaya who has to defend her, which is something you can do at the Hungaroring, but keeping Pure Sims going, that normally is a very hard task.
You are braver than me attempting Lyubov's name there. I've got to be honest. He's from Kazakhstan, by the way, as he might be. He's kind of got that kind of tinge to it, hasn't it, the name? So fair play to there on Sumo. This is a battle for 8th place. Olympus Esports going for this one, and Pure Sims are trying to take it off them. A couple of the Impulse Racing cars are actually here, with the 63 not too much further behind here, so there's multiple involved here, and the 63 is actually the one that was involved with the BMW you can see on your screen right now. So the 257 is a team car and might want to avenge the particular incident that they had, but it's not quite the very same car that we've seen, and neither of the same drivers are in there either. And so there's a lot of play here as they go into turn 1. The BMW is always strong on the brakes. We've seen an example of that in the last few moments, and Olympus Esports, knowing that, defend on the inside line in the Porsche. But it's not over yet. Into turn 2 they go. More defending. An outside line for the BMW again. Oh, squeeze from Pure Sims. Maybe a run around the outside will get them the inside for 3, and that will be the move done. But it's easier said than done. Not able to get through. We've seen incidents there before, and thankfully they've kept it clean this time. Impulse Racing looking to get involved. They can't quite for the moment.
Can't quite do that, and this is going to get fun. Pure Sims on the outside. No, they refrain. Man, this is just getting too close to watch now. This is amazing.
It really is absolutely fantastic to see as they go across the chicane, and it's allowing all of the incredible battling that you were saying is allowing others to catch on from behind. We've now got 2 more Lamborghinis, I think, just peering into the distance in the background. We've got 2 more Lamborghinis looking to join this train, which is really starting to form now.
Certainly so. The more you fight, the more tricky it gets, and so Impulse Racing might in a way get reinforcements from behind, which is not a bad thing to have at all, but you've got to get past the 2 other cars first. You can't double team unless one car gets past, right? So you've got to put that pressure on them, and that pressure has been going on. But first, Pure Sims are the one putting the pressure on Olympus, and it's nice to see Lyubov defending so well. She's actually doing in a tremendous shift at this stage.
For the moment, but it's a long way to the finish. I'm afraid it will be a massive achievement to stay in front of all of these guys for the remainder of the race, because there's a long way to go just yet. Another look to the inside here on this occasion from Grove, but no way through for the Pure Sims driver for now. And Impulse Racing are now really starting to kind of flex their muscles in this battle and show themselves, and that is going to make it more difficult for the BMW here. It's one thing attacking another car when you're on your own, but when you've got guys attacking you from behind as well, it does all of a sudden give you too many things to do almost.
Yeah, it just really constrains your options, makes you focus more on defending more than attacking the other car. So you can go in a way more of a destructive option than a constructive one, because of course you always feel like constructing your race and go ahead and trying to make a move, but sometimes you've got to deal with matters in the background, and right now these are the matters that Olympus and Pure Sims and the likes will have to deal with. But first, Pure Sims, let's focus on them and their battle, because suddenly, Ewan, I'm not getting the most positive of feelings seeing these 2 cars again together so close.
They are very close indeed, and this time Pure Sims have got double the Impulse Racing cars to deal with here on this occasion, so it could take some of the pressure off of the 46 car in the next few moments. Let's wait and see on that one, as the 116 just behind is doing its best to go on the defensive on this occasion. Not something we've seen too much of Pure Sims so far. They've been on the attack. We saw Ross McFarlane in the first stint on the attack on Daniel Sommer, and we've seen them so far in this stint attacking the number 46 Olympus Esports car, but now it's their turn to go on the defensive. Oh, very late on the brakes, almost too late from Eric Grove, and now he's going to be under severe pressure from the Lamborghini behind. Nothing really doing into turn 2. We've seen how good this BMW is on the brakes. They'll certainly be able to use that to their advantage in this fight.
Yeah, it's a big BMW. It's a stable BMW, all things considered. And the Lamborghini, which is normally the more twitchy car, can be sharper in the corners, but it's largely down to how much more pace you can carry. And Pure Sims using the size, using the stability to its advantage, and holding on to it. And I wonder when that moment will arrive. I wonder when you will see Impulse actually making that big move right now, because you sense that it's coming. Just a matter of when, and just a matter of Pure Sims not frustrating themselves by sitting behind the rope in that Olympus car right now, because they've been seeing the back of that Porsche for what, 5-7 odd minutes already?
Might even be more. We've not even been watching it the whole time, I don't think. So it's been a while. Certainly. Still just over 15 minutes to go as well, and this battle is intriguing us just for the moment, going through turn 11, and just some of the pressure being taken off of the Porsche up in front here because of the pressure being applied by the Lamborghinis in a kind of roundabout way. It's making Grove just look in his mirrors a little bit more than he would like and taking some of the pace away, but I really can't see a way through for these Lamborghinis with the situation with the BMW. When the BMW's on the brakes, they're really going to need a bit of a mistake and a good run out of the final corner, but on this occasion it looks like they might have got it. BMW pretty strong in a straight line as well though, to be fair, so it's going to be difficult for them to really make that dive. You can just see there, just look at that, making the corner, Eric Grove nearly hitting the back of that Porsche every time.
Yeah. And he's almost always going for the same, but he's just not able to open up that gap, which, dare I say, was the mistake that happened the last time with Pure Sims in the first half. But so far, so good. I'm liking this. I'm liking the intensity to this battle right now. But Eric Grove will be under pressure because Augustin in the background, Henrik Augustin will not wait. He is closer than ever. Maybe there's a shot at the end of turn 1 the next time round, because Impulse are looking even closer in this stage.
They are indeed, and there's two of them crawling all over the back of Grove right now. Into the chicane, maybe a chance, but no, not this time. That would be too brave to be going through. This middle sector really for them is just all about composing themselves and trying to make their way through into turn one, but really Impulse, for all the pressure they've applied, they've not really had a glaring opportunity yet.
Yeah, they're not quite able to make that opportunity happen, let's say. Normally as a racing team, you've got to push the drivers up ahead, force them into making a mistake, get them to do something wrong, get them to put a foot wrong. But so far, Impulse have been there. Pure Sims have just not felt that pressure that much, which is testament to what Eric Grove has been doing so far. But he'll have to sustain a lot more of those attacks for a lot more time, and at the same time, dish them out to Nuvo at the front for Olympus Esports. That's the fun part about being in the car in the middle of the train. Thing is, Augustin won't be under attack from Shorter. There won't be any swapping around because they know that, right, the car that's ahead should be given the right opportunity to maybe go ahead and make the other move. So basically, Shorter in the number 63 car can be acting like a rear gunner. So this is the fun part. This is when not having the teammate advantage puts Pure Sims in a bit of a tricky spot mentally.
It does, but also if they want to get through on into 8th place, if they, same goes for Impulse as well. Everybody's kind of running out of time in this race. There's only 13 minutes to go. They can't wait around forever here.
Yeah, exactly. No, you've got to give yourself enough time. But what happens when you're not able to make that opportunity? Just keep on pressuring them. Just keep on being right there in the mirrors, like you can see right now for Christy Shorter, who can see Thomas behind. In Pascal Thomas, by the way, in the Project Dynamic car, the more you see a car in your rearview mirror, the more irritated you get of them. And the more irritated you get, the more emotional you get, and so you're more likely to make a mistake. Keep pushing, keep pressing, that chance will come sometime.
On board with Chris Shorter at the moment, watching him apply his trade right now through turn 11. You can see in the background there, we've got a Lamborghini in the rearview mirror, and indeed an Audi as well, starting to approach on this battle. Not well. Kind of keeping Jakob Pedersen at arm's length as well. They might be able to pull him in towards the end of this race, but let's see. Certainly the other RSO car, the 197, is going to be getting involved here. Now, how has this car managed to get there? Robin Hassett, he was inside the top 10 quite comfortably, but he must have had a long stop here in this one. It was 38 seconds, a good 6 to 8 seconds slower than everybody else's.
Okay, I shall get down to the bottom of it in a couple of seconds. I'll get back on the quickly check on what's happening.
Thank you. Yeah, we'll have a look at Robin Hassett and how on earth he managed to lose that amount of time. It's cost him a lot of positions as well, because he would have maybe even been in front of these guys that we were watching, but not these ones. This is his teammate in the 198, Max Riedmuller, on the back of Maximilian Fritz, who's been doing a lot of defending so far in this stint. He got overtaken by the first of the RSR cars earlier, 68, and now he's got, he's nearly got the 69, the other one from company, but also another RSR car. So this is a big stint for Fritz to try and get a podium at least in this race, as they're all in the wake of Maniti Racing, who are still leading this one.
Okay, I think I know.
Let's hear it. What's happened to Robin Hassett, and why on earth is he in 13th after all this time?
Yeah, longest stop. Nothing on the penalty list, by the way, and there are a few penalties. So RSO 197 aren't quite there. So what I can maybe tell is that they perhaps took 2 tires, and that's what maybe has given them a longer stop. There are other teams who have had stops of similar nature as well. So that could be Team Oblivion Racing, that could be Westwood Racing as well, around that 38-second margin. So most probably that is why. But interestingly enough, Maniti Racing came on the chat and said that, well, we didn't forget to take out tires. So yeah, that just makes things a little bit more interesting.
Yeah, I suppose that Hassett is getting a small gain from whatever he's done at the moment. He's reeling them in slightly from 8th place on backwards, in a battle that is still going on, as is this one for 3rd place. We can't really count the 68 of Oscar Copa involved in that anymore, really, because he's kind of extricating himself just for now, but these three behind certainly are, and for the final 10 minutes will be fighting it out for the final podium spot. And because we're so far up towards the front, there's a lot of points on the line here as well. RSO playing for 8 points right now if they were able to get on the podium.
That's right, that's a big gain. Eventually it comes down to those points. We don't need to tell you how close championships can get, right? We've seen it so many other forms of motorsport. The titles are decided by 1 point, 2 points, in some cases even half a point. That won't happen here in IVRA. Half a point is a bit of an anomaly, but you can't seriously see a championship decided within 10 points. And it's these sort of races, and these sort of races where you might say, yeah, but well, it's okay to finish P4. It might be a good result. No. If you get one more position, you get a much greater chance of winning that title. Here we are, seeing something quite like that happening on the right side.
Yeah, World of Sim Racing at the moment, one of their cars anyway. Oh, late one into turn 5, and it might actually come off. We don't often see this, but inside line at turn 5 on a late one it might actually turn out to be the right way to go here. Into the chicane they go, and nice move from the 151 team to get up into into the 51 team, I should say, to get up into 21st. Oh no, excuse me, I was right the first time. They're into 22nd, because it is the 151. There we are. So third place, the battle is ongoing. Maximilian Fritz on the inside line, trying to defend from RSO, and doing all he can. Pushes them right out to the grass, and they go for... Oh my word, he's off the road in a big way, but he comes back on. They're still side by side up the hill towards turn 4. Inside line for Fritz, and he's going to hold on, but for how much longer? Because RSO are on the outside line again into 5. That might not be the best choice, because McCormack might try and get involved, but doesn't quite for the moment. He hangs back for now. However, the first punches have been thrown in this battle for third position. There'll be a lot of discussion over whether what Maximilian Fritz did through turn 3 is actually legal or not, though.
Yeah, but look at the narrative. Maximilian Fritz, Max Riedmuller, two former teammates at Helsingwell, now at different outfits, going head-to-head against each other in this tremendous season opener. I love to see this. It's like a really good story that matures, and now there's a bit of a scent to the outside.
And RSO are getting involved, almost in front of RSO already here. Outside line for the penultimate corner, but no, it's a long way around there, so they're not going to be able to. 3 different cars fighting over the 1 podium position remaining in this race. And we're on board with Mark McCormack as he tries to make his bid for third place. 6 3/4 minutes to go in a fascinating race at the Hungaroring. Maximilian Fritz has got a long 4 or 5 laps in front of him here. Oh, McCormack weaves under brakes. He's barely got that car under control. The BMW once again catching him out with how late it can brake.
Oh my god, this is getting really nervy. This is the kind of stuff we all love to watch. And in this battle, RSR might just end up being the big fish. Reason being, when 2 drivers are fighting each other against each other so passionately, as might be the case between Fritz and Riedmuller, someone has the opening. I've seen it happen so many times in national championships where there are 2 drivers with their eyes fixed on each other, and someone comes in and steals that position. Maybe, just maybe, McCormack could be doing that for RSR Esports by G Performance here today, but time is not on his side.
Not really. Just about 5 minutes to go now, and it's a bit difficult to tell when this race is going to end. I think it was 4 laps at the line there, so I think 3 laps this time around, but we'll wait and see on that one. By the way, Oscar Koper is showing some good pace here because he's actually closing on Andreas Thiel in a way that we haven't seen so far, really. Maniti Racing have been out front by miles, and they're not going to be caught in this race, I wouldn't expect, but it's certainly promising for the season and the race coming up in the next few moments that Oscar Koper is able to reel in that Maniti car up in front.
That's right. He's been closing in by a little bit, but more importantly, he's also been able to shed behind Fritz and Riedmuller, which is quite a thing to do because early on they were pretty close to each other. So Oscar Koper showing some real signs of promise, and that's not just with one RSR car. Got McCormack in P number 5, Koper in 2nd. Things are looking good if you are RSR Esports by G Performance.
They are indeed, as this battle for P3 is just petered out for the last couple of moments. There's still time for it to change, but it's not quite the nose to tail all-out brawl that we saw not so long ago. But thankfully for us, on the right-hand side of your screen, it is starting to get interesting again for 8th place, with Olympus Esports involved with Pure Sims, Impulse, ×2, Project Dynamic as well, and Team RSO, who are not too far behind, all in that shot there, all 6 of them trying to get 8th place here, and some more points on the board. Of course, it looks like a sense of urgency has started to appear in this group now that we're getting down towards the end.
Yeah, exactly. Good to see this urgency in the racing. And now I want to see Impulse do something. Impulse have been there for far too long. I wouldn't say go for a silly move, because that's not the way out ahead, but try, maybe push that a little bit harder, because it's the last 3.5 moments. I like to see stuff like this happen. And I've been corrected partially by XE in the YouTube chat, mentioned that Reedmull and Fritz are still teammates. The RSO car is a split teammate between the 5-star and the RSO. Max is from the 5-star, and RSO, well, they've got Max Hertzfeld. It's, yeah, and Maximilian Fritz, of course. It's these amazing things, right? Amazing to see the community be able to react with us and keep us engaged in discussion. So really awesome to see that. Keep it coming, guys. Keep the comments coming in on the YouTube chat. And while you're at it, maybe just check out the giveaway as well in the comments.
Yes, absolutely, because that is still ongoing. So yeah, kind of, I don't know what we call semi-teammates, maybe we'll call them.
Yeah.
Fritz and Friedmuller, I guess, or maybe. Well, anyway, they're certainly affiliated still, and still very close to each other on the circuit right now. As are these guys, still for 8th place, and it could well be for 7th soon, because Jakob Pedersen is really being reeled in at a quite alarming rate. Aidan Schabolt started that car, let's not forget, and he was a little bit quicker, so that is something to note for the number 20. They've got a couple of drivers, but Schabolt just seemed to be stronger than Pedersen, it's safe to say.
Yeah, stuff like that can happen. Sometimes you might have a slightly lopsided driver combination. Can be a track-specific thing, can be maybe just the car not suiting the other driver as much, but you will see the team lineup get a little bit more stable all the way through. But yes, stuff like that can happen, and so teams might have to keep that in mind when planning their races. So you will see a lot more of that in the reverse front happen, but eventually, yes, sometimes teams may prefer to put the better defender out there in the top of race 1, because once you can do that, once the gaps open up, then you can give it to a better driver who can just open up the gaps in clean air.
Yeah, absolutely. As we see the battle for 15th, Full Send Racing and Ronin Academy battling away. I'm not sure if these two might have come together earlier on, actually, in an incident at turn 5 or turn 4/5. I'm not entirely sure, because so much has happened in this race that it's sort of difficult to tell what happened when. But I believe, anyway, we're going on to the final lap of the race. It's going to be close in terms of the seconds, but the man is waving the white flag on the stand thing there, so we do indeed have 1 lap to go in this Hungaroring race, and it's been all Maniti Racing up towards the front. Andreas Thiel has closed out the job that was started by Tim Matske, started in qualifying actually, converted the race start beautifully, and they have not looked back since.
They really haven't, and I get a feeling that they'll be having a tough job on their hands in the reverse grid, because that's what the HyperX IVRA GT Sprint Series does. But for this race, for what they've done right here, right now, oh man, you couldn't have asked for anything even better than this.
It's an absolute dream start for Maniti by the looks of things, and a bit of a stalemate behind as well. No real chances for Eric Grove to get through on the Olympus Esports Porsche up in front, so they look like they're going to finish 9th in this one, with the 1 sector remaining, not applying the pressure too much either. But meanwhile, on the bottom right hand side of your screen, and now in full, it's Andreas Thiel for Maniti Racing, who are going to win the first race of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series here in the fall season of 2021. A dominant drive from Tim Matske and Andreas Thiel in their Audi to win by nearly 5 seconds. The battle for 3rd was ongoing towards the end. Maximilian Fritz runs out victorious in that one. Jakob Pedersen just about holds on to 7th ahead of a charging pack headed by another of the Porsches for Olympus Esports. Further on behind, there is a battle going on for 20th, which is effectively the battle going on for pole position in the next race. It is between Impulse Racing and... it was between Impulse Racing and World of Sim Racing. However, WOSR came to blows with Impulse, I believe, and so it looks like it's going to be one of the Impulse cars starting on the pole for race 2. A very, very interesting race indeed. A very enjoyable race as well here at the Hungaroring. Plenty of drama, plenty of action, plenty of stuff for us to be watching, but in the end, only one winner, and there only looked like there was going to be one winner in that one. It was always going to be Maniti Racing, Sumo.
It was. Right from the start, there was a slight doubt if they were going to keep hold of that position because all the other teams looked so strong in qualifying, but man, this was quite something. This was a dominant performance from Maniti Racing. There's no other word for it. They were just class apart in a way.
They were, and we'll get a chat with one of their drivers in a few moments' time in the small intermission before the next race, race 2, which will be coming up in about 10 minutes' time here on RaceBot TV. But here are the race results. Maniti Racing taking it by nearly 5 seconds in front of RSR by Primus, who really got a charge on towards the end of that one. 5-Star Motorsport, Team RSO and the other RSR car were battling it out for third. And there was more battles going on further back. Talk Freak Racing was 6th ahead of Jakob Pedersen in 7th. Then we had a whole load of battling trains. Olympus Esports, Pure Sims Esports, Impulse Racing rounding out your top 10. Impulse Racing were either side of the top 10 actually, finishing in 11th as well. Project Dynamic, then Team RSO just backing off from that train. 30 seconds down was Vector by RSI, who had a fairly lonely race. Full Send Racing and Ronin Academy were battling right to the flag, ahead of Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport, Mag Performance Junior Team, Westwood Racing Esports and Impulse Racing, who are going to be starting on the pole for race 2. Team Oblivion Racing finished ahead of Kazar Sim Racing, who didn't have the best race at all. The other Olympus Esports car in 23rd. N-Race Esports were 24th, ahead of BSTV Esports. The two World of Sim Racing cars next, ahead of another of the Kazar Sim Racing cars. The first WEC Sim Racing car was 29th, ahead of the V-Racers car, running at the top 30 after their small incident that they had. And then we get to those a lap down. Another of the Kazar Sim Racing GT3s, the Porsche. Rusty Spatulas were 32nd, ahead of the second of the VEC Sim Racing BMWs, not having a good opening to their season. And Niobe by Awesome Motorsport ended their race exceptionally early on, I'm afraid. So it was not a perfect race for them. Well, Sumo, it was very exciting indeed, the Hungaroring race. I very much enjoyed it. We spoke about Maniti, they were dominant, but the racing as a whole was good. It was clean for the most part. There were a couple of incidents, but it was entertaining.
It was, and that's all you want. So what if someone won by a margin of around 5 seconds, but you got to see some crazy battles. Battles between half teammates, battles between two different teams, battles between car classes, which is what GT3 racing is really genuinely all about. It's quite a special series, this one. It's only going to get better.
It is indeed. We will be going forward with race 2 in the next 10 minutes or so. But Sumo, I believe you have an announcement to make on the giveaway front.
Indeed, yes. So first things first, guys, check out that pinned link on the YouTube chat. That will give you a bit of an idea about what the giveaway is all about. But I'll tell you another thing. Throughout the season, there will be some sort of Easter egg popping up on your screen. And this time, I'm not going to say exactly what it is, but if you're a meat lover, you might be having a bit of an idea of what it will be. So keep an eye on that. Collect those Easter eggs. Keep a track of what it might be, because at the end of the year, there will be a form of sorts where you can just enter what was the Easter egg. And if you get them correctly, there is a big hamper coming along your way. And if Julian Bell, the organizer of the series, says that something is big, it is big. So keep a track of something meaty on the broadcast today as your Easter egg, and keep a note of it. It's going to be special.
Yes, it is indeed. So keep your eye on that one. We also do have Tim Matske in the waiting room, waiting for us to interview him. So we're going to bring him in and have a little bit of a chat with our race winner. Tim, it's great to have you along and talk to you after that race. A very successful race for Maniti, but talk us through the opening of that one. You converted off of the start and drove away from the field. How was it? I think we're still waiting to hear from you. I think you've got to set yourself to not away. Or there we are. There we are. Yes.
I never had this. Thank you. Indeed, very successful. We've turned a lot of laps here the last week, so kind of knew the way around the track. And just in race 1, where you kind of have bigger impact on your result than for the reverse grid race. Obviously, you got to make sure you grab all the points you can. We are very glad to be able to say that we came out on top. Andy did a great job on the cold tires after the pit stop as well, and everything was very controlled, I think. Yep.
It was indeed. You mentioned there it's a new circuit for everybody, the Hungaroring. How are you enjoying it in this car?
It has got a pretty nice flow, I think. Especially in cold temperatures, there's a lot of fun, and actually there's a few corners where you actually feel some downforce in GT3 cars, which you don't always do. Like I think it's turn 10, the last of the S's, you can let the car flow nicely into there, and you actually feel the downforce working. Overall, I think overtaking is pretty difficult here, so we'll see how that works out for race 2. But it's surely a nice track to just turn some laps on.
It is indeed. In my opinion anyway. I think it's quite nice. Last of all, we've got to let you go and prepare for race 2 in a few moments' time. However, what do you think in terms of... just think about it. Your teammate, we saw Andreas Thiel rounding out the race here tonight. The first race anyway, taking the flag. What's he like to work with? How are you two getting on in terms of a duo in this championship?
Oh, I think the teamwork with Andy is amazing. Really enjoy being around him. I think he's pretty easy to deal with, and I also think I'm relatively easy to deal with. So I think we get along nicely, and usually when there's success, there's no real reason for any negativity anyway. So I hope we can come out with a good result out of race 2, and then I think everything is nice. But as I said, we get along very nicely. Yep. Really happy to drive with him.
Absolutely, yeah, and it's certainly been a winning formula so far. So we'll let you go now, Tim, and prepare for race 2, which I know is coming up very shortly, and will be certainly on your mind as you'll be starting 20th for this one. But first of all, congratulations on winning race 1, and good luck for the next hour or so.
Thank you. Hope to hear later from you, but it's going to be a long race. Bye.
Thank you very much. It certainly is going to be a long race here, Sumo. Great to hear from one of the Maniti Racing drivers after a very successful day so far, but the big test is really coming up in the next few moments.
That is right. For Maniti, for 5-star, for all the bigger teams that you saw at the top right there, this one is really going to be the challenge, because the reverse grid race comes up. The top 20 gets flipped around, and now they've got to be the ones doing all the overtaking. And at Hungaroring, we've seen how tricky it can be to find the right moment. So for all the other teams that didn't quite have the best of race number 1, this is a really good chance to redeem yourself.
It is indeed. We obviously got the reverse grid coming up, so the field is going to be a little bit scattered here. How is the best approach to turn 1 in this one? It's tight and it's difficult, and we've seen in real life in the past there's disasters at turn 1. So how do you approach it when you're in the mid-pack? You're not even at the back anymore. You're in the mid-pack, in the real danger zone as a front runner.
You completely are, right? That's the war zone of sorts, in a way, where everyone comes together. There's metal and there's carbon fiber, everything flying around. composure is the way ahead, right? And so many people might say, well, it's all about putting your car in the right place. How do you find the right place? How do you know that that is the right place for your car to go in? Composure. You don't have to be slow. You just have to be calm and aware of your actions, because your impulse decisions, no pun intended there, can actually end up making you lose positions.
Yes, you do have to keep a cool head, certainly, in this one. And one more thing as well, as we get towards the second race. The RSR BMW, driven by Oscar Kopel in the last race, Oscar Copa, excuse me, in the last race, was very quick towards the end. I don't know if that was Andreas Thiel just backing off a little bit to make sure they didn't make a mistake, or what was going on there, but that BMW did look strong and very promising as well towards the end of race 1.
Yeah, it did. It really did. And the chance for them now is even better, because they don't have to pass Maniti anymore. And that's a big thing. Maniti is a tough team to pass. And by finishing second, yes, you lose out on 10 points, but you can get a little bit of that up if you don't have to pass them in the second race. So that is a bit of a positive for them. But let's see, there are other really competent cars for them to get out and pass as well. So that's going to be a fun challenge.
It is indeed. It's certainly going to be fun for us anyway, as we look at this one. Let's not forget the rest of the season is still coming up, and we're going to be able to see all of it here on RaceSpot TV. We've got Barber Motorsports Park coming up in a couple of weeks' time. Alton Park for round 3. Belle Isle, the streets of Belle Isle after that. Brands Hatch for the penultimate race, and Montreal for the final one. A calendar, a very unique calendar, I think it's fair to say. And then in the winter season, we didn't talk about it too much, but Circuit of the Americas, Okayama, Laguna Seca, Long Beach, Charlotte and Bathurst. There's a number of American ones in there, but a number of strange ones once again, namely the Charlotte Roval, which is going to be an event. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah. You know, I don't know what to say. I'm not a big fan of the Charlotte Roval, to be honest, for racing, but we have seen some good races there, and the folks at IVRA say they have tried it, and it has worked in pre-qualifying. So I'm having expectations. I'm having expectations to see how it works out. But no, to be honest with you, what's the worst that can happen, right? Seriously, if you can have a great race at the Hungaroring, which is a very tough track to pass on, you can have a great race anywhere. And Charlotte Roval should be somewhat similar, just visually a little bit different.
Visually very different, yeah, for us. So we'll see about that one. We'll look forward to it, certainly coming up. And I'm very much looking forward to Bathurst at the end of the winter season as well, because it's always a great circuit. And indeed, one of the very few really iconic GT3 circuits we have. It's not a criticism, but it's just a uniqueness of this championship. What we are going to do now, we've still got a little bit of time left here in warm-up. Just over 3 minutes, we're going to have a chat with one of the Project Dynamic team members, Pascal Thomas, who now comes to join us. Welcome along. We've just had race 1, and how was it? How do you guys assess your first race as a team?
Yeah, it was all in all very nice. We hold on. We had a moment at the start where we crashed with Pro Car, I guess, and we had 4 minutes 30 of optionals, which was less than ideal, but in the end we had good pace and we could keep it, and yeah, that's a very nice race for us.
Yeah, indeed, it was good for you guys to have the pace at least, I guess, and looking ahead as well, race 2's coming up. It's the kind of more difficult race, I would say, because of the reverse grid situation that we have going on. How are you guys going to approach that reverse grid and the different situations that brings for everybody?
So yeah, to be honest, we won't change all too much, I guess. I guess we'll just try to get through the traffic as good as we can and hope to make a lot of positions in the first couple of laps when the field is very tight. Yeah, and then we'll see what comes. I guess there's not very big rooms for different approaches.
No, not too much, I suppose. One more thing as well. Where are you aiming to be at the end of race 2 here? What's the goal?
So overall position is very hard to say because we're in Pro-Am, and obviously the pro guys, especially like guys like Maniti, Although they will start from 20th position, I guess we have no chance to compete with them. And I guess we're aiming for our second Pro-Am win. That would be very nice. And keeping it within the top 10, that would be like optimal.
Yeah, indeed. So we'll be watching on, and yeah, good luck with the second race. Thanks for coming for an interview, and yeah, good luck in the upcoming hour.
Thank you very much. Bye bye.
There we are, Pascal Thomas for the 21 team, Project Dynamic in their Lamborghini, who are going to be attempting to finish in the top 10 according to Pascal there, and we'll see if they're able to manage that. Just one more minute left of warm-up, and it seems that most of the guys are actually used it. About half are willing to use the warm-up session here, as if they haven't been driving enough already today. They're going for a little bit longer in this one, and yeah, an hour in front of them, kind of composed themselves before the reverse grid and the start, which is inevitably going to be a big talking point here.
Indeed, yeah, that start in the reverse grid race. Well, what other word can you use apart from chaotic? Maybe frantic, frenetic, entertaining is one you could really point out. It's going to be mad, and only the calmest ones will be the ones surviving and actually making out something really big from it. 5-star motorsport, well, I mean, Team RSO by 5-star, 5-star by Team RSO, yeah, I think the right way around is the former. They will have to watch out, because in the first start even, they really got sandwiched. They really got pushed out and just squashed in the middle as well, and they lost 2 positions at that start. They can't afford to do anything quite like that right now.
No, they can't. It would... yes, it's just not going to be good. Mistakes need to be avoided, and so that's what they will attempt to do. The starting grid is coming up very shortly, because the warm-up session is just about over right now, so we'll be taking a look at the 34 cars that will be taking to the grid here today. It's Impulse Racing on pole ahead of Westwood Racing, Esports on the front row, Mag Performance Junior Team, then Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport, Ronin Academy and Full Send Racing are going to be on the same row as well. Vector by RSR and Team RSO make up row 4, Project Dynamic, we've just seen, starting 9th, alongside Impulse Racing to round out the top 10. Marco Jaeger in the other Impulse car is alongside Ross McFarlane, who's starting the car for the second time for Pure Sims. Olympus Esports have decided to go with Thomas Cope off the start again as well. Jakob Pedersen starts the race for the first time this season in 14th. Talk Freak Racing are in 15th ahead of RSR by G Performance. RSO by 5-star are in 17th ahead of the normal 5-star motorsport car. RSR and Maniti round out the top 20. Team Oblivion Racing alongside Kazar Sim Racing. These guys didn't have such a great race in the first one. Olympus Esports and M-Race Esports are next. Then we've got BSTV Esports ahead of the 2 World of Sim Racing cars. Kazar Sim Racing following on from VC Sim Racing. V-Races rounding out the top 30. And the final slide to see 31 on down. Kazar Sim Racing, Rusty Spatulas, VC Sim Racing and Noibe by Awesome Motorsport rounding out your 34 car grid. We're getting ready, getting set for the reverse grid race. Race 2 of the HyperX GT Sprint Series here by IVRA, and we're ready to go racing at the Hungaroring. Oh, it's a disaster already. There's spun cars on the front straight and there's chaos at the Hungaroring. Before the race has even got underway, some eager right feet down the order have meant 2 cars spun around already. It could have been worse. We get into turn 1, the field a little bit more strung out. There's chaos again, more contact, more cars spun around, and you can see the 46 Olympus Esports car was involved. Ross McFarlane has also gone for a spin, and he's gone almost to the very back of the field. But it's Impulse Racing who have just about converted from this one. Well, they did initially, and then it was Vector by RSR, because Impulse Racing are now in second. There's another spinner in the background. It is a chaotic start.
Told you this was going to be intense, told you this was going to be crazy, chaotic, all the things you could imagine, but I didn't imagine it. To see it go this way right before the race began. Hey, less on that, more on the racing. another biggie. I think that's Ronin Academy having a bit of a problem early on as well. So lots of cars that are not able to make it work out. The positives, Vector by RSR, they have clung on to P1 like a child clinging on to their mother's hand. Something quite like that. That's one of the words I'd read rather in a book yesterday. So that's a good one for them. But one of the bigger teams, one of the teams that we saw near the front of the pack, who are they who are doing a good job right now? One of them is Impulse Racing by GazX, with Christy Shorter already in that top 5. That is a tremendous start from them, when all their main competitors are not quite around them so much.
Yeah, the guys who have made a good start in this one, Maniti Racing, once again, Tim Matska's inside the top 10 already, he's in 9th right now. Those who spun around on the opening lap, by the way, Pure Sims Esports, VEC Sim Racing, Ronin Academy, RSR by Primus, not good for Oscar Coper at all, for him to be going around. Morphus by Awesome Motorsport and Team RSO have all had problems on the first lap. That's 6 cars, as we look at one of the Impulse Racing cars making it down the inside of the 111 Mag Performance Junior team, outside line into 2. And it's going to be difficult for them to hang it around there, but it's a flowing corner, and so they are going to be into 4th.
Indeed they are. That is a good move. Eventually they have made it work out quite well, and Yanis Albert is now on the attack, on the prowl.
Project Dynamic around the outside at turn 4 would be brave, but it's not quite come off on this occasion. The 20 car of Jakob Pedersen making progress early on, as are Team RSO, as is the man we're on board with, Tim Matska, trying to get up the order. Into the chicane they go, Project Dynamic and No Nonsense battling side by side through 2 corners you don't often see, and they're still going for it. Into the middle sector, it's a big stack up behind. No Nonsense eventually lose out, and Project Dynamic get in front. Team RSO go wide, Tim Matska are able to get in front of them.
Yeah, exactly. Tim is just on the attack, and now McCormack in the RSR car also has to go for a little bit of a defending with Impulse, who are trying now, and Quasar attack on the outside. This is superb.
It really is off of the start here. It's Small already inside of the, well, nearly inside the top 10. Richard Small, after starting outside of the top 20, has already made up 11 places. If this one comes off on the outside, it's back to 10 now as he goes through the final corner, trying to get the run on the Lamborghini. But it's the 171 Vector by RSR car leading by nearly a second ahead of Impulse Racing, then Westwood Racing Esports, who have both made very good starts. Side by side between these two still, Richard Small down the inside. And, well, I was talking about it like he'd already completed the move, but he hasn't. It's still side by side between the two. And this time, it's finally going to be Impulse to retain the place, or is it? Because they won't leave each other alone. They just managed to sort themselves out now, as further up towards front, Chris Shorter has made up another place. He's into 3rd now.
Nice. Oh man, Shorter is on the attack for Impulse. This is turning out to be one of their strongest performances, but they're soon going to meet some really good rivals. Oh man, this is turning out to be fun. Quasar, by the way, we're trying something on the chicane which is a bit too bold, and it doesn't quite work out in that case. But Project Dynamic, No Nonsense Racing, RSO, they're all in this beautiful fight, along with Maniti.
Yes, they are indeed. It's all very close. Jakob Pedersen showed himself last race to not quite be on the pace of Aidan Shadbolt, but still very respectable. So we'll see where this gets him in this race. We've passed the first 5 minutes already. Lots of stuff going on. Tim Matska down the inside, and it's another overtake. 13 positions now made for the race winner. About half an hour ago. Already deciding to get go towards another one around the outside for RSO at the final corner. That looked like it was easy for them, as McCormack as well tries to get through. Mark McCormack on the outside line of Jakob Pedersen now, and he looks like he's going to get through. So the 20 car falling backwards very, very quickly.
Indeed, yeah. Not quite working out. This is a bit of a strange one, but yes, the fighting continues, the battling continues, and after the first lap, I quite like the way the battles are going so far. Very respectful, very nice to see them carry on and continue. And with the momentum of Oscar Di Copa, I think he'll be in a fight like this soon, but not for a very high position, unfortunately, currently in just P32.
Yeah, he's had that issue on the opening lap. I think it was the opening lap, and he has dropped all the way down. Let's see how it all happened.
Oh,
Somebody a bit eager on the throttle there, and then all this just happens on from behind.
I suppose it was Vector, because it was a green car with a black livery, and they were the ones who gained the most. So, could be wrong. I want to be proven wrong, but yes, the clear-cut scenario of that was one car got going a bit too quickly. And that shouldn't happen, because the start zone is clearly defined by race control, and the clear idea of that is that the leading driver will start you off in that start zone when they can choose where to go within that zone. So, yeah, just there's a concertina effect, much like what we saw the Tuscan GP last year.
Oh, Project Dynamic getting through on my performance, and Tim Matske follows him through, and Riedmuller also follows them both through. Follows them all through. Max Riedmuller gets in front of Mike Performance as well, as one of the Impulse Racing cars, having dropped out of the top two, is now looking at a long line of cars in behind, most of which look faster as this race stands at the moment. They go into turn one. It's so close between them all, but Tim Matske putting on the Mag Performance car's got around there. This is what happened exactly. It looked like it was that Vector by RSR car. Not only is that a jump start technically, but it's also, I guess you could give them a penalty for the incident itself as well. So I'd be very surprised if they get away scot-free.
Yeah, so I'll be keeping my eye on the penalty sheet to see if anything comes across, and there is a likely chance of something like that coming in and changing the decision of the race. But here's something happening. Isn't the Mac Performance? It is the Mac Performance car. That's Oscar Copa getting the hit in a way.
It was Mark McCormack in the other RSR car, I think, in that one. But I think it was all going on. Oh, and it's all going on back here. It's a big hit for both of these two. Team Oblivion, and I think that's Full Send Racing. Oh, hold the brakes for goodness sake. Because it's, and World of Sim Racing as well going around. Absolute chaos at times in this race. A lot going on. Tim Matske taking advantage of some of it to get down the inside of the 87 maybe. He's already cleared Project Dynamic, and now he's looking at a podium already. We're not even 10 minutes into this race, and the winner from last time out is looking at a possible podium.
I don't even know, man. I seriously don't even know with him and Maniti Racing. They are coming across at such strong drivers already. This is just ridiculously good. But they will be given competition. They will be given some very strong fight, because Max Riedmuller is right there behind. Mark McCormack is somewhere nearby, and Janis Albert is close by too, so this should be a fun fight. Matske, by the way, goes for the move on Openkowski, so he gets that one done on Westwood Racing. Somewhat expected, because Westwood weren't quite the strongest in the first race, but still, the chances are looking brighter by the minute.
Just pulling a little bit wide there, the 87, to let Project Dynamic through. So Tim Matske's into fourth. We only saw once last season somebody go back-to-back, and I'm starting to think that we might get that already. Here's more problems that we saw in the first lap. This is how Ross McFarlane is so far down. It was Jakob Pedersen braking too late and taking the Pure Sims car out of the equation.
What can you do? What can you do if you're Ross McFarlane right there? Sit there, get angry by yourself? I'll tell you what you can do. You can put your head down, you can calm down, and maybe try and make the best of this race and address that accident later on, because really, he was just a sitting duck right there, and sitting ducks just can't complain about it. But in this case, sitting ducks can attack, and that is what Ross will be willing to do. But already, Maniti fighting for that podium slot that he mentioned, Ewan.
They are indeed on the Impulse Racing car, but Impulse trying to hold them back for as long as possible for their teammates, so that Chris Shorter gets as much breathing space for as much time as possible in this race. A little bit wide from Matske there, trying to get a bit of a run here into the final corner, which is going to set him up for turn one, in his eyes anyway. Let's wait and see if that comes off. Through the final corner they go. And can the Lamborghini stay in front here one more time? It's allowing a real train to form, but I don't think it's going to go on for too much longer. Down the inside for Tim Matske, and that is going to be through. Impulse Racing held on the outside line, and Max Riedmuller, who's been following Matske through the entire race, may have a little bit more trouble following him through on this occasion, and indeed he does. Not able to get up into 4th quite as quickly as he was hoping to there, and now he's lost the back of Matska. He might well lose him for good in this race because he's not followed him through for the first time today.
That's the point, Ewan. You've absolutely nailed it on the head. When you give that car a little bit of room, when you give Maniti that slight breathing space, and you get stuck behind another car trying to pass them, they will go away because they've got clear air. Now finally that move is still not done. So for 5-star and RSO, this is just a very precarious position because Matska and Maniti, they will cherish the clear air, but you've got to do the hard work right now.
Yeah, absolutely. They have indeed, and let's see as we go towards the end of the final, the middle sector, excuse me, how quickly is Riedmuller going to be able to clear the Impulse Racing car? Maybe not right now, into turn 12, late on the brakes, down the inside and through for the 198. So they are into 4th place. Project Dynamic going to try and follow them through now. A Lamborghini battle going on in the penultimate corner, but not able to make his way through. And so it's Riedmuller into 4th, but Albert and all of those behind are still stuck.
Exactly. And you look at the gap that Riedmuller and Tim Matska have pulled off, right? Look at the difference. Just within half a lap, Matska has pulled out a 2-second gap to Team RSO. That is what I was talking about. You've got to do your dirty work a little bit quicker. Otherwise, teams like Maniti Racing will just grab the opportunity with both hands and make a gap like this one that might potentially be unassailable beyond the point.
It may well be, but let's see as we go to the leaders. Vector by RSR, who we think caused that lap 1 and front straight incident, definitely going to be under investigation, but certainly under examination by Chris Shorter right now, who's just in behind. And will be looking to get through in the next few rounds. They've managed to get themselves clear though of the field, which would be good because you've just seen behind the chaos that is happening. Yeah. It's very, very busy back there, and they'll be glad to be out of it.
Exactly that one. And that's the best part. Well, you can't just be in the midfield. There's always something happening in the midfield. And so better to keep yourself away, better to keep yourself stabilized. But I get a feeling rather soon Christy Shorter might assume the lead of this race and take Impulse Racing by Gasix Racing, with Gasix Racing, sorry, into the lead of this race. But there's a challenge coming in from behind. That seems to be fun.
Marco Jaeger going down the inside and getting into 8th place, with Richard Small making his way inside the top 10 for Kazar Sim Racing, which is around about where they were for the majority of last season. As they all go a little bit wide through the final corner. It is crazy back there as we see the battle for the lead on the left-hand side. For the first time today, it seems, the BMW getting outbroken on the outside line there by the Lamborghini, as there's all kinds of dives heading for Adam Isaacson, getting through on Jakob Pedersen in an all-Porsche battle at the back of that train. And side by side with Mark McCormack again. Round the outside of Marco Jaeger maybe. It's in the inside for 3, but is he going to be able to hold it there? He does, just about, does he? Oh, it's close. But Impulse just about hold on as 3 wide very nearly in the background. Isaacson and Pedersen splitting the difference with the Audi. Oh no! Oh, it's a big accident. Turn 4, fastest portion of the racetrack, and some big names off the road.
That is a biggie in terms of the championship. It just opens up the gap a little bit more, and you can't afford incidents like this one. You really can't. When there's a Team RSO car at the top, when there's Project Dynamic taking in and raking in some really good points, you can't let that happen, but it has. So let's take a look at where things really spilled over. And really, it was just a box incident, perhaps. It just clearly was.
Pedersen didn't really seem to realise that there were 3 wide there. I think he thought that they were going to be 2 wide by the time they were on the entry to turn 4, and in the end it's turned out disastrous for all 3 of them. Thankfully, none of them actually made contact with the barriers and only each other, so they've kind of got away with it in that sense, but it's still going to set them back.
You lose time, that's the major problem, and time is something you can't quite gain back so quickly when all the others are so efficient with their strategy. You just have to live with it.
Impulse Racing trying to go down the inside of Vector by RSR, who leave the door open on the inside line there. And now they're going to run side by side on the exit of the corner. Chris Shorter trying to make this overtake. It's a good run for the Lamborghini on the outside of turn 2, but can they hang it around there? We've not seen too many overtakes through here, really. But maybe this is going to be the opportunity. Inside for 3, still side by side, and they're glued together, going towards turn 4. My goodness, the BMW on the inside line, on the outside for Shorter. Surely not over there, he's still there, inside for 5, and they're still side by side for pretty much half a lap at this point. Into the chicanes they go. The Lamborghini on the inside might have the way through here, and does just about slip in front of the BMW. What a great battle that was. Finally Chris Shorter's into the lead, but Maniti Racing and Tim Matska is now well and truly involved. Oh, he's going for it. Inside line at turn 8, outside at 11 is not going to happen, but surely into 12. Oh, it maybe is. There's a bit of contact, and he's going to still apply the pressure. Outside line, gives him the inside for the penultimate corner if he can hold it there, and he does indeed. Tim Matska is into second place.
Man, they really made it hard for each other. They really made it hard. And you've got to give it to Vector, right? Vector just clung on to it as much as they could, but eventually the cars were faster. But they put up a fight, and that is what we all love to see, a fight.
It was a fantastic fight as well between the two of them, as Tim Matska now goes down and tries to chase the leader, Chris Shorter, down.
That's
so this is going to be a fantastic fight. Yeah, it's going to be Maniti Racing trying to go back-to-back and win the first 2 races of this season.
And what a way to announce yourself. That there's literally no other way, no better way to announce yourself. And you get a feeling that Maniti will eventually get something quite like that done, because time is generally on their side. And we saw in the first race that nobody could catch them. It's going to be hard for Christy Shorter to block off that position, but hard is not impossible. If you show enough spirit, if you just block off the right lines, maybe we could have a second winner in this championship.
Let's wait and see on that front, but there's still over 40 minutes to go to decide that one. We've got a number of cars in the pit lane, by the way, getting repairs, and a couple of cars out of the race. Team RSO 197, Full Send Racing 96 out of the race already, after all of the incidents on lap 1 that have really put a dampener on this race for some. As we go back to the number 5 car, because on the back of Adam Wright, as you can see, BSTV Esports making a good start. Into turn 12 they go, maybe a dive, and there is from Isaacson, who's recovering after that spin, and recovering fairly well, but he's not having things all his own way. Outside line into the left-hander. I'm not quite able to make this work yet. Adam Wright not making it easy for him.
Rightfully so. Rightfully so. There's no one who deserves a position, per se, in the world of racing. You've got to fight hard for it. And BSTV right now doing exactly that. Showing spirit. And that is lovely. But I get a feeling that there will be a pass rather soon, though.
There is indeed. Isaacson down the inside. And textbook move into turn 1, and dare I say, just about as well executed as that pun a few minutes ago, Sumo. That's quite very nice. But a good move down the inside from Isaacson. This is Kazar Sim Racing not having the best day. Word of Sim Racing helping them on that occasion.
Yeah, no, you've really got to feel for Kazar Sim Racing. Things are just piling on for them. And they came in with so many great expectations and hopes about showing what they're really made of in this song. But sometimes things really just don't work out for you. This has to be one of those days.
Oscar Coper's into the points again here after the trials and tribulations of lap 1. He's now making his way through the field rather nicely, and might even be able to scrape a top 10 by the end of it. There's still nearly 40 minutes left, so don't give up hope on that just yet. He's got a bit of a train now, though, which is always more difficult to work your way through.
Yeah, that's the fun part. If you're faster, of course, you will eventually make your way past, but it can be frustrating because you lose time, and that is going to be really tricky. it's just a matter of composure in this case. How can you be smart and not make overly aggressive lunges? Because remember, all the other cars are not entitled to let you pass.
The Lamborghini there in the battle with World of Sim Racing, going for a half spin. Well, not a half spin, but just a bit of a moment. Tanguy van der Vliege, who's been involved in those before, as meanwhile Tim Matske is into the lead again. Chris Shorter deposed because the Maniti Racing are now leaders.
There we are. There we are. And Maniti utilising the advantage. You can start with any driver in the race, and they're going in and they've put Tim Matske to do the hard work at the beginning. Now it's just about following it up in the next few minutes. Here's a look at that move again. I get a feeling it's a classic textbook turn one move. Yes, Impulse recognised that.
It was indeed. I think Shorter realises that he could have a podium here if he doesn't fight too hard and continues on the way he is right now, because if you look at the gaps behind, he's pulling away from the 171. He might have trouble with that RSO car driven by Max Riedmuller at the moment, but if he just drives his own race, then he could well have a podium in this one.
He could, and that's the part. You've got to be smart in recognizing where your fight lies, and realistically, it's going to be too hard to fight. Yeah, you might call it, yeah, you're giving up, yes, whatever, but you're recognizing that the longer game is ahead and against other cars, and so that's what they've done.
Yeah, they have indeed. As Ronin Academy are back to where they were before, in second place of this train. Trying to get through on World of Sim Racing here once again. Maybe into turn 12. They seem close enough with the foreshortening of the camera, but not really on that occasion. Staying behind in the final sector as Oscar Copa is not doing that just for the moment. He's applying the pressure to the 724 car just in front, the BMW. There, and here he is. We go on board with the RSR Brian Primis car. The guys who came second last time out. Not a great run off of the final corner, and so they're going to have to try again sometime soon, but World of Sim Racing are having to defend just up in front. Ronin Academy on the outside, and Oscar Copa might be able to take advantage of this.
There he goes. Oh no, this doesn't help.
Ronnie Nunez, and it's a difficult place to get back on here for Talk Freak Racing. He can't see, so he just got to kind of guess when to go again. This is how it happened in a battle with Impulse Racing. Side by side, slight bit of contact, but big consequences, I'm afraid, for the 81.
Yeah, exactly. Big biggie. And that's exactly the thing that can happen in the GT Sprint Series. You make one error and you drop down so many positions. And that's the worst part.
Yeah, unfortunately for him. Ronin Academy got through on World of Sim Racing, by the way, and Oscar Copa trying to get through on the BMW in front. Nearly successfully there. Maybe the middle sector will be an opportunity for him. Good exit, good run, but nowhere to go with it as they work their way through here. It is very, very difficult to make a pass anywhere here, never mind in its twistiest sections. As they go into the final corner, he's going to have to wait for turn one.
Certainly has got to. I mean, that's the smartness, right? When you recognise where the opportunities really lie. We saw in the first half that there were some moves that just weren't sensible enough, per se. And so we saw how Maniti were able to execute the sensible move properly. That is what RSR have to do right now.
They do indeed. They've got to bide their time in this race as much as they can, as weird as that sounds. But also make progress when they can as well. Pit window is open. We've barely had a chance to talk about it so far because it's been so hectic. And in a race like this, which is so hectic, I feel like the pit stop window is going to play less of a part than it did in race one, which really did turn it on its head for some battles.
Yeah.
But the race has already been turned on its head, really. So it's not going to affect the race as much as it did.
You're right with that. I thought maybe that it'll take a little bit of time for teams like Maniti to come up and early on, maybe do something special, but their performance has just been something else, to be honest.
Here's Adam Wright getting it wrong, I'm afraid, into turn two.
Oh.
Thank you. It goes for a spin for number 4. Sorry for laughing, but it had to be done.
Yeah.
So he drops out behind all of these guys outside of the top 20 now. through turn 2 as Oscar Copa struggles to make his way through this train. He's right in the middle of it all now, and World of Sim Racing dropping back is not helping them either, because it's certainly making the cars in front, like the BMW in front right now. Just think about it, and not really allowing Copa to make the move himself. Would it be smart though for him? Maybe he's so far behind anyway. Would it be smart for him to pit already in this one? It might well be.
Yeah, could be. There's a little bit of time left.
Oh, he does.
Pit windows open.
Oh. Sorry, everybody pits there. Sorry for cutting across you. Everybody pits. So World of Sim Racing are in, and so are VC Sim Racing, so are RSR. So they were trying to get out of this battle, but they've actually just followed them in.
See, I told you something like that will eventually happen, right? We discussed this in the first race when we said, yeah, there might be a situation where everyone might pit it surprisingly, and it just gets negated, and here we are with it.
Yeah, it really has. Strange how these things do sometimes transpire, and so there we are through turn 5. These guys go in a battle of their own, horse racing battle. But this time it's Thomas Cope and Ross McFarlane who's making a recovery. 9th place after dropping all the way to the back at that spin at the very first turn of the race. Ross McFarlane has done a good job to recover.
He really has. And again, it comes down to that composure, how he avoided that battle in the first race as well. Even after he crashed, he kept his calm, and he's showing that he can show some degree of calmness in this one as well. But now it's going to be tough because you've got an inviting battle in Olympus. Go for a move on the outside. This is a good chance.
It is indeed. Inside line for Thomas Cope, and he gets through into what is 7th place now, and Ross McFarlane may try to do the same here as they go past the pit lane one more time. Maybe a bit of a run off of the corner, but a little bit too wide for that one really, and so it's going to be difficult. But the BMW is good on the brakes, we've said it before, and it's no secret, not quite able to get down the inside on this occasion though, so staying behind for the moment. Maybe another chance. Turn 2 is coming up, and for the moment staying behind. RSR then in the 68, where are they in relation to everybody else? The RSR car, I believe, might well have got in front of one or two of those it was battling, but we'll wait and see on that one. The 68 car is still behind. Oh no, sorry, it's still behind both of them after a long pit stop. 40 seconds, that is too long.
They surely have taken ties then. They surely have. They have to try something different. And they know that they can get past the others. They just need that little bit extra gap, per se. And that can come with the tires. Here's Ross McFarlane, though, looking for something interesting.
On the outside of turn 9, which is a very impressive manoeuvre to be making, but that's exactly what he's just done to get himself into 8th place. And he can set his sights further on up in front. Thomas Cope, though, might want to come into the pit lane in the next few moments because he's lagging quite badly, and so they run the risk of disconnecting entirely if they're not careful.
Yeah, no, that's right. And once that happens, I mean, there's nothing you can do about it, right? The race carries on. Nobody waits for you. And in the world of real motorsport, it can be, say, an engine failure or suspension failure or something that can derail your race. Over here, it is things like this.
Yeah, absolutely. As we go up towards the front again, vector by RSR, defending from Team RSO. Now, Max Greenmuller was following Tim Batska through the entire field here, but he missed his opportunity going through one of the cars, and so he's never really seen the number 8 car again. Now, Greenmuller, if he bides his time and does this race well, he could well finish second in this one, I think, but the Miniti racing car almost looks gone already.
As usual, per se, I can call it. No, it's crazy that even in the second race we are getting used to this. Shouldn't quite be that way, but I'm sure all the other teams will pack a little bit more of a punch. But that's right, you miss one chance and you give that window to another team, and that window is just too big of a window in a way.
It's certainly it's certainly enough for Munich Racing. Give them an inch and they'll take a mile, and that's what they've done. Well, they've taken 3 seconds right now, as we see more pit stops on the right-hand side of your screen. We'll try and figure all of those out in the next 4 or so minutes when the pit stop window closes. Actually side by side with Impulse Racing here, and a big squeeze on the, and too much of a squeeze, arguably. Very aggressive, arguably too aggressive there from the BMW on the right hand side.
Yeah, exactly. Things really did get rather spicy right there. I don't know. This championship is just getting to be too much fun. Well, speaking of spicy, by the way, our Easter egg for today is something that will leave you really hungry. Pun intended. It's a Hungarian delicacy, by the way, and it generally is spicy, much like the racing right here. So keep an eye, perhaps.
Wow, a lot of pit stops coming up right here. Project Dynamic in the pit lane. So's Adam Isaacson, Jakob Pedersen also in. Richard Small in the 25. Oh, a lot of Porsches. But this really does seem like the time to pit. The time is running out, to be fair. They can't wait too much longer to come into the pit lane. So they're deciding to go for it now. And yeah, it's very, very busy. But let's see how long these pit stops are going to be. If anybody's going to take tyres, maybe a longer pit stop for tyres and so on and so forth. Or a longer pit stop for any reason at all, because they were race defining last time out.
They were, and that can make the difference eventually. See if it works, and maybe learn from the last race. I doubt someone will, but yeah, they're going on the jacks. Maybe a couple of tires is the way out here.
Yeah, absolutely. Looks all normal so far, with most of the positions staying the same. Maximilian Fritz has got very close to Impulse Racing, as you can see, at the moment. A few seconds longer for No Nonsense Racing again. They've lost a few seconds again for the second time here today. So yeah, that's not good news at all. They do need to sort that one out for the season, because they keep losing time every single pit stop, it seems, as Munich Racing come in and will presumably lead the rest of the field onto pit lane.
Yeah, exactly. Munich leading the way as always, but I think it's just a strategy, perhaps, for them to try out maybe if the 2 tires works out, and they want to give it a shot in both races, so that's what they have done. I guess it's with experience when you can try out that really what works and what really doesn't.
Final pit stops being made right now, but as they do so, it's I guess time to give a shout out to the series sponsor, HyperX. It's the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series, what we are seeing right now, and HyperX, a company well worth going to check out. They're the official gaming peripheral sponsor, so yeah, if you're looking for that kind of thing, then check them out, certainly, at the moment, providing this wonderful series for us that we are enjoying right now. Andreas Thiel is currently in the lead of it. Daniel Sommer in second place, with RSO in third, followed by Vector by RSR, so the top 4 places are exactly the same. The top 6 are also the same as they all exit the pit lane right now. Nothing strange happening towards the front. I guess the only thing we can say is No Nonsense Racing again, a few seconds longer for the second time, but other than that, it was very clean pit stops from everybody.
Very clean indeed. They're just getting the hang of it. Nobody missing their brake marker, something like that. And which has happened quite, by the way, where certain teams have just missed their pit box and they've had to go back in and reverse. So luckily, that's not the case. And there's also a rule in IVRA that I'll come to after Quasar make their move.
Oh, out of the pit lane and straight into the side of the 68 car, which is trying to recover a pretty disastrous race. Ole Steinbratton was not expecting to be in this much traffic, and unfortunately for him, he is at this stage. It's Torque Freak Racing who just came out nearly into the side of him, and they're still side by side with one of the other Porsches, but luckily able to get through on this occasion. You'll see if... Oh, he can't get through. See if the 68 can follow him through, but not quite on this occasion. Outside line of turn 5, later braking and swinging right around the outside. That was a good move, so clearing traffic efficiently right now, the 68 team, despite their longer pit stop.
Yeah, that helps out, right? Faster tyres, fresher ones, and they are what makes the difference. Of course, you lose time, but if you're confident enough in your driver, you can make it work. And that's the strategy they are trying. Essentially, it's damage limitation, considering how the race is going on. So you've really got to keep that in mind. But you've got to make the best of your situation. And so far, they're not in a very good situation, all things considered.
Not really, but there's still some time to recover it. Top Freak Racing just in front, and these guys are out of position as well. David Baraklov just in front. And let's not forget, their spin at turn 2 has set them back here, which is... so neither of these two teams are really supposed to be back here at this point, but they are, given the situation that they have found themselves in. So they're actually going to fight it out pretty hard here, despite the position they're in. They do, I would advise anyway, staying behind the 81, because I know that they're going to catch the next couple of cars, maybe.
Yeah. See if you can follow along, see if you can tag them along, because they are the ones that are your golden ticket to let the other guys, to get the other guys is what I mean to say. So, again, it's easier said than done, but there is a chance. You can use that momentum to your advantage and see if you can make things work out for you.
Up the hill towards turn 4 again. They've got Kazar Sim Racing just in front with Johnny Waters, but VEC Sim Racing are the next on the list, and that is a car that they're all going to be able to catch, I would imagine. And so the 68 will continue their recovery drive. Currently they're only getting 9 points, and they're going to lose 91 to Maniti Racing, which would mean they'll be 101 behind after only one round. And if they consider the number 8 team as championship rivals, then that is a big margin.
Already? That's the crazy part. You just need consistency so badly. This might just seem dramatic right now, because it is dramatic. How do you recover from something quite like that? And they will need Mini to have a bad race. They, of course, won't be wishing for bad luck for them, but what else can you do, right? You need them to have a bad race for you to get back into it.
Yeah, they kind of do at this stage, and judging by how last season went, bad races don't often come by very often for the main contenders. Huizinveld had 2 to really speak of, and RSR Esports only really 1, but due to the amount of races that the 78 Huizinveld car actually won, they managed to take the championship. So let's see if a similar situation arises here today. But for now, it's about focusing on this race and not worrying too much about that situation, really.
Yeah, again, that's the same part. You can do that when the races are not on. Right now, you've just got to get the most that you potentially can. And to be fair, they're doing that on their part. And their part teammates as well, vectored by RSR, they are actually keeping hold of that position quite well. I thought they would drop down a little bit more, but no.
Oh, no.
It's good to see them where they are. No!
Talk Freak Racing. David Baraklov spins around. Oh, that's a dangerous rejoin as well. But he's just wanting to get going as quickly as possible. Another spinner in the foreground. Lots going on. It's Jonathan Ribeiro for N-Race Esports. So Talk Freak have not had a good day today, really. They got in the top 5 in practice, but since then it's been a disaster. And good avoidance as well from the 68 to not get involved in that incident there.
Yeah, really hard round for Talk Freak. Doesn't quite work out. N-Race, one of the stalwarts in the first season of GT Sprint, just dodging it so well until they didn't.
Well, yeah, and that's definitely on the Talk Freak car, I would say. You can't rejoin like that. A blind corner, uphill, fast corner as well. Yeah, I don't think you shouldn't be rejoining like we just seen from the Talk Freak Racing car there.
Yeah, exactly. The rejoins have been a bit of a problem, and here is something that's not a problem. That's Aiden Shadbolt's driving. He has been aggressive, he has been hard, but he's got to fight hard for P number 14 right now. No nonsense, trying on World of Sim Racing, and World of Sim Racing says, well, our defense is also no nonsense. Have some.
Yeah, somewhat ironically, World of Sim Racing have been putting on some of the most no-nonsense defending of the day, so let's see how this pans out. Shadbolt around the outside of turn 4. They both give racing room and great respect between the two. They're a bit more contact into 5, but thankfully Shadbolt has got the place, he's got the car in the right places, and now he's up a place into 14th position. So a good job from him there. But it was a very tense battle. Side by side through turn 4, and it worked on that occasion.
It did. I really thought it wouldn't. I generally thought this was going to end in tears for somebody, but no. When you've got the heart, when you've got some really good experience of racing, things can generally work out for you. And this time, luckily, it did. So, what's up for No Nonsense Racing? Where are Ronan? Ronan are 2 seconds up ahead, but considering how No Nonsense have been driving, it can still happen. Mind you, they've got some damage on their car, but still, where there's hope, there's always a way.
Yeah, exactly. And Chapeau's been a very good driver so far. This is one of the Impulse Racing cars. Henrik Augustin going for a spin at turn 4. We saw him lose a position on the timing tower. Very easy to do, and I'm surprised, to be honest, that we've not seen it more throughout the fastest corner on this circuit.
Yeah, but what really matters is the position that they lost. They're down in P number 6, which is not too bad, but still, you don't want to be making errors like that one because you lose some time. And with 18 minutes to go, it puts them in a bit of a good position to be fought with and to be overtaken by the cars behind. So you've got to keep that in mind as well.
They've got 2 great teams behind them as well now, Olympus Esports and RSR by G Performance. As Vector by RSR get back in front of Team RSO after a bit of a scrap between the two of them. So battles going on all over the place at this stage in the race. And yeah, it's very, very entertaining stuff so far. But Maniti Racing still leading. Andreas Thiel still extending the margin over the 63, and behind, all of the battles are going on in a very similar way to what we saw in race 1, and we're seeing some very similar battles to what we did in race 1 as well.
Exactly. The intensity is right there, which is all you want to see. And some of the teams that we knew were going to be close by with each other are also dueling with each other. And we knew that Olympus and RSR would be having a bit of a fight. This time, of course, without Pjolsims in the mix, that is a bit of an interesting one to fight, to see as well. But with 17 minutes to go, there's enough and ample of time for them to duel, to go side by side, to put up a show like all of us genuinely enjoy.
Yeah, absolutely. It was, we saw a little bit earlier on, there was a bit of aggressive defending going on, a bit of aggressive driving. It was from Boris Angel Avando in the 69 car. Down towards turn 2, but he got away with it as we see a pass for 12th. I think that was Ronin Academy getting in front of Impulse Racing, or the other way around, and it was indeed the first time. Ronin Academy late braking, these two in the same cars, and no real braking difference in terms of the car there. That was just a pure dive, blocks the exit for Impulse and straight through.
Exactly. Hard, really hard, this one, man. This is nice to see. Even late on in the race, the intensity doesn't quite die down, and that is nice. So let's take a look at what's happening right now. Project Dynamic are dipping down. More on that in a second once we get to know what's happening, but this multi-class battle is amazing, isn't it? Where you're getting multi-car, where you're getting to see Porsches versus Lamborghinis, BMWs versus Porsches as well. This is just fun in a way.
It is indeed. Pascal Thomas, we talked to him just before the race, and they were aiming for a top 10 when he's still in there, but how much longer is he going to be there for? Could he have had more? I believe he might have had an incident here, unless he's just been overtaken by 5-Star Motorsport, and nothing else has happened with that. So many overtakes going on, by the way, at one time. Yeah. It's really hard to know where to look, but this is still a decent result at the moment for Project Dynamic. I think they were just overtaken this time around, instead of an incident actually happening.
Could potentially happen. There's always, as you rightly mentioned, so much going on, always so much drama in the HyperX IVRA GT Sprint, and always a bit tricky to spot the Easter egg as well. Again, as I mentioned, if you're hungry, that is something you might quite like. But yes, back on the battles, back away, keeping aside the silly puns, is Project Dynamic really going for a fight? Now, you saw what I saw right there? They actually went on the inside, almost cutting the corner. This is how crazy they are for this position.
I don't think they intended to do that when they went into the corner, but it's just the position they found themselves within almost. But then again, he's used a little bit of that curve at turn 5, which is not often used, so maybe. But into the chicane they go. Not really too much pressure being applied to the Porsche at the moment. Just staying behind as things stand. And their battle is going to continue on, as is this one. Vector by RSR versus Team RSO has been ongoing. This is for a podium, so they're going to fight hard for this.
Of course they are. There's so many points on offer right here, and just not points, the pride of being on the podium as well. Vector by RSR, of course, who have been leading since the beginning of this race. They would not be the team you would usually see in the top half, or at least that is what we saw from race number 1 though. We want to be seeing them in the top half. We want to be seeing them near the podium, and this just could be the case where they turn it around and Ted Lewandijk could bring the car home. Lewandijk is a bit of an IVRA veteran per se. He's been in multiple IVRA championships over last year. And now with Vector, they've had a good run in the Endurance Series. Will they block them off, and will they keep this position in?
Looks like for the moment they're able to hold on, maybe even for a podium in this race. Don't forget they had that incident off at the start that they may well still get in trouble for, but for now they can fight for what is in front of them. And that's what they're going to do the remaining 13 minutes. Turn 5 a little bit wide, but Mats Torg Husfeld is not going to be able to capitalise on that just for the moment. Into the chicane they go, and still having to look on from the front of this Audi, as he's not able to really get through. Although I am seeing a couple of mistakes happening really from that RSR car. You know, a couple of apex missed, and it's not the tidiest drive as things stand. So you get the feeling the overtake might be coming here.
Yeah, exactly. And Vector, they are really having to work with that BMW. It might be the most stable one out of the two, but sometimes when the tires go, the tires go. And they are facing something somewhat similar. And thing is, the tires are not exactly gone, because they can last far longer, but in relative terms as well, you can see Max Verstappen carrying that confidence in the corners, but what use is it unless you can't make your way past? I think Max realizes he's taking his time with it. He'll plan it and then go for it.
He will do, yep. Oh, late on the brakes again. To go out turn 1, down towards 2, but at the moment not really close enough. We saw a couple of openings, but not really glaring opportunities for Husfeld to really give this one a go. So he's just got to bide his time for the moment. As we've mentioned, over 10 minutes left. That is time, and considering the gap up to Daniel Sommer up in front, this might well be all he can get from this race, so it's worth taking his time over it.
Yeah, exactly. No need to fret about it. No need to be so urgent about it. You know you've got a little while. You know you've got 10 minutes. You know that you are the faster one. So let's try making the other guy make a mistake first. If they don't, use your power, use your pace. Get things done the way you know you can.
Just, yeah, do it in your own time and without pressure from behind is also an advantage, and not always a luxury that you get, but these two are basically in their own battle at the moment. The Pure Sims car of Eric Grove is way behind. Well, I'll say way behind, it's a few seconds behind, but a very impressive drive from them, considering they were spun around not so long ago at turn 1 on the first lap. You know, yeah. They've done very, very, very well to get up to 5th.
Seriously, those sort of comebacks are the ones where you really enjoy watching the racing, and I wish we could have a driver of the day sort of vote right here so we could tell, but yeah, those sort of fights, those sort of fighting spirit is what you really enjoy to see. So they're doing something quite like that. But first, Woodsfeld trying on Teddy. This should be good.
It should be, but once again, there's no real opening for Woodsfeld this time. He's closer though. He is closer than he has been before. We've seen this in the past with the BMW. We spoke about it all the time. It's good on the brakes, and not only does that, you know, it gives the obvious benefits, but it makes you more difficult to overtake most of all. They're using that to his advantage right now in that 171 car. Vector by RSR. Ted Lowendick trying to stay in front of Husveld for the Mywin. And all important points being gathered, of course. 8 up for grabs in this battle. They will go to whoever comes out on top to make their tally to 81 for this particular race. And so that'll be a decent points haul for Team RSO, and maybe less so for the 171, but they were able to get a fair amount in the 20s or so, I think, for their first race. So it's still a decent showing, but there can be no doubts about who are going to be championship leaders when we leave the Hungaroring this evening.
Exactly. Yeah, Maniti have been super dominant. They will continue to be. But it's good to see RSO fighting back in and doing what they can about it. That's the best part. They will, I seemingly think they will eventually get it. But if that move isn't done with the last 5 minutes left to go, then you really get a feeling that, right, it's Vector generally defending and not RSO holding back, because by that point, you would want to get that move done.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, just mentioning Maniti Racing there, I don't think it's any coincidence that Team Huisenveld, having won the first race of the season last season, they went on to win the title as a whole. I don't think that's any coincidence, and Maniti Racing certainly setting themselves off on the right foot here, as are these two, to be fair. Not a bad weekend for them at all. As we go further back to where some of the big names have found themselves, the 68 car is still in 17th. Trying to close down on VEC Sim Racing, but that might be it for them. 16th might be all they get. Only 16 points for that, and when your rivals are gaining 84 more than that, it really does add up.
It hurts. It genuinely hurts. That. Oh, how do you even explain them? How do you even tell them how things will actually go on? Like, you're losing so many points, and RSO might just lose less points with a move like that. Oh my, that is risky.
Very close between the two, but Husveld, after being heroically late on the brakes into the third last corner, might well have this done. But inside line through the final corner has Vector by RSR in the lead again. However, RSO with a humongous run off of the final corner all the way to the pit wall to defend for the BMW, but it might well all be in vain in the end. Round the outside, not able to get through just yet. They've still got their noses in front here of the 171 team. Outside line for 2 though, which has always been difficult, and so they finally give up the position. I don't think they really wanted to at that point, but they didn't really have any other choice.
Yeah, they couldn't quite hold on for much longer, but you've got to respect the fight. You've got to respect that Vector kept hold of it for so long. Even though on paper they might not appear to be as strong a team like ours. So the fight, the spirit, and I know I've been saying this quite a fair bit, but it matters eventually. You want to see teams do this, and that was amazing.
On the right hand side of your screen, still battles going on further down the order, but RSO finally onto the podium. And Vector by RSR are going to be disappointed they weren't able to pick up the podium, but I don't know about you, but I feel like they're going to receive a penalty for their start-finish straight antics on lap 1 at the start of this race.
Yeah, it's not happened yet, as far as I can tell, but you get a feeling that might happen. But if anything, there's a reminder, you can do it on your pace. You can defend quite a fair bit, so carry that positive along. So what if you might not have the same position as you do right now? You know that you've got something special in that team, so pick it up and use it up for the other races. Carry that momentum along.
That is true. The positives they can take will be plentiful, certainly. So 3 laps to go as they cross the line here. A little bit of a slower race here in terms of the time, because Maniti Racing, the eventual leaders, are or had to overtake 19 cars before they made it here, so that would have set them back slightly, but not too much in the end. Project Dynamic trying to get down the inside of Maximilian Fritz here, and there are the movers and shakers on the left-hand side of your screen. Not only have they shown themselves to have pace today, Maniti Racing, but overtaking prowess as well.
overtaking Kraus as well indeed, yeah, and they timed it to perfection, which is what you have to do in reverse grid races. So you can leave it for your entire race. The thing is, when you just benefit from the chaos early on, it really helps you. Plus, you use your calmness to make sure that within the first 20 minutes, all your work is done. Your job, all your hard work is just basically over. So it's just controlling, which is something that Thiel has been able to do so well so far.
Yeah, after all, Thiel did have a lot of the work done for him by Tim Batsker. I'm not saying that Thiel has not done a good job here this afternoon, but he certainly has been made easier by Tim Batsker and his driving so far in this race and in this championship, which they are going to be leading. The 63 team, Impulse Racing, didn't quite get up to where they maybe deserved to be in their first race because of an incident with the Pure Sims car. However, starting 10th and getting up to second is a good result for them as well. 11th and second for them on the day is positive. As we're seeing Olympus Esports, I'm afraid, just dropping down late on. I think they lost that position to Impulse Racing if indeed they are not actually catching the 2.7 but 2.57, but either way these guys are still trying to get out as well. Still plenty going on in the midfield right now.
Plenty. Project Dynamic aiming to get past Maximilian Fritz, who's been putting in quite a good job with the Porsche so far, but as the race comes towards an end, sometimes your guard slips up, sometimes your concentration goes past. Hard to imagine that happening with Fritz, who is quite the qualified endurance racing driver. But that's the best part. During the end of these races is where you can see magic happen in terms of fighting. So keep an eye on that. There are some points on offer here.
There are indeed, and valuable ones as well. Let's see, into the chicane they go again, and they're actually all catching this battle for 6th place that's going on. It's really starting to develop, although I think Olympus Esports are going to be looking in their mirrors a little bit too much towards the end to really be a factor. A factor in terms of getting through an Impulse. I mean, let's see though. If we go towards what might be the final lap, but also might not be. Oh, it's off the road. Ronin Academy, not a great rejoin, but they're back on the road, and World of Sim Racing are going to benefit from this incident right here. Let's see. Completely, bizarrely on their own, that was.
Yeah, that's a bit of an odd one. Maybe, as I mentioned, concentration levels dipping down towards the end of the race is why you see mistakes like that happening. Yeah, but a weird one for that to happen, because the race is only an hour, but it can be long days, right? Drivers practice for long times before the races begin.
Oh.
And here's that move, here's that defending!
Project Dynamic trying too hard almost to get down the inside of Maximilian Fritz. The backmarker doesn't quite know where to put themselves at the moment because it's chaos between these two. Fritz on the inside line and Pascal Thomas tries to get through again. Not able to. That was aggression personified between the two of them. There was not much space for that Lamborghini there.
Yeah, it reminded me of Hungary back in 2010 when we had that crazy battle with Michael Schumacher and Rubens Barrichello. Not that Weisthauer were forcing them so badly into the pit wall, but they were clear and defined that this is my space. You can't do anything. And Project Dynamics said, yeah, well, speaking of, they've got another lap though, which is not far.
Or have they? I'm not entirely sure if this is going to be the last lap or not. It's really close, to be honest. But we'll wait and see. It should be the last one as we come up towards the line right now. The checkered flag is in hand and it is waving for Munich Racing. The second time today they take the checkered flag first. It's Andreas Thiel on top again as he takes the checkered flag to win Munich Racing's second race of the season in 2 races. A fantastic outing here at the Hungaroring for them, and not a bad one either for Impulse Racing, who have got 2 of their cars inside the top 10 for this second race, including Daniel Sommer, who finishes second in this one. These guys weren't really able to change their positions late on. At the end, it's a disappointing second race for RSR, and Project Dynamic will be disappointed as well. Pascal Thomas just missed out on 9th position in that one. Further back, I guess the big talking point, RSR by Primus, 17th position after doing so well in race 1.
Yeah. What can they do about it? Just reverse grid racing at its finest if you are all the other teams, worst if you're RSR. Fact is, it is what it is for everyone, right? Thing is, Maniti were able to make it work out at a very similar position, but RSR unfortunately weren't quite so lucky or weren't quite in the right place at the right time, and which is why heading into the second round they have such a big deficit now.
It's certainly at its finest for us as an audience. It was absolutely fantastic racing once again, and a thoroughly enjoyable Hungaroring round of the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. Let's have a look at your race results. From race 2, it was Maniti Racing who took it by 4 seconds ahead of Impulse Racing. Team RSO getting a podium ahead of Vector by RSR, and Pure Sims recovering to 5th. Another Impulse Racing car inside the top 10 with Olympus Esports finishing in a very similar position as to what they did in race 1. RSR by G Performance just behind them, with 5-Star Motorsport and Project Dynamic battling it out towards the end and rounding out your top 10. Westwood Racing Esports were next ahead of No Nonsense Racing, who didn't have the best race too. World of Sim Racing having a better time of things though in 13th. Ronin Academy were 14th ahead of the other Impulse Racing car. VC Sim Racing just battling off RSR by Primus as well for 16th. Kazar Sim Racing were 18th ahead of Talk Freak Racing, and Rusty Spatulas rounding out your top 20. Another Kazar Sim Racing car next ahead of N-Race Esports, BSTV Esports, followed by the second World of Sim Racing car. Then Re-Racers, the first car a lap down ahead of Neuben by Awesome Motorsport. Olympus Esports likewise. BC Sim Racing Rouge also got to the end of the race, but Mag Performance didn't, I'm afraid. Kazar Sim Racing Virgo likewise. Neither did the final 4 on the order. Full Send Racing, Team Oblivion Racing, Morpheus by Awesome Motorsport, and Team RSO mostly hampered by that final, that first lap chaos that we saw in these races. Well, Sumo, it's been fantastic, but we do have a couple of... Well, we've got Tim Matsker in here at the moment for an interview. Yeah, we'll have a chat for him. Why don't you ask him a couple of questions, I guess, about how the race has gone here in race 2.
For sure. Tim, bit of a change in scenery this time out at the start. But firstly, mate, what just happened at the start? How did you survive it? There we are. Tim, can you hear me? Tim, do you have a copy? No worries, I think we'll get back to Tim in a little bit. Till then, though, why don't we get Matstog Hertzfeld, perhaps? Let's try and see if we can bring him on right now. Mats, do you have a copy, mate? Can you hear me?
I can hear you loud and clear.
Perfect, mate. Firstly, many congratulations on that result. Good to see you guys on the podium again. How crazy was that start, though? How did you guys survive it?
I don't know, to be honest. We were really lucky to get out of this mess and gain some positions, and I think that was the key for the podium in the second race.
And Matt, how did the race get later on? Because we saw you guys in some really good battles. How crazy was the one towards the end when you...
That was really crazy because I think Vector was on another strategy, so they had new tires and I was on the old boots. And then we had a lapped car, which, interfered me, and so I lost the position. But nevertheless, after that, I think I got a bit of pace back, and could pass the Vector car, the BMW. And so all in all, really happy today. P3 and P4. That is a good start into the season.
Indeed it is. And Mats, who would you like to thank for this result?
First of all, my teammate Max Wiedmüller and Team 5 Star, who made that possible. Also Team RSO, that we could race together again after the championship winning season last year. And thanks also to Cedric, Robin, Luca and Niels for the support with the setup and with the car. So great team effort today, and we will see us all together in 2 weeks' time.
Many congratulations, mate. Great result.
Thank you.
There we have it. Thanks for interviewing Mats there at Sumill. It's good to hear from those RSRO guys. Now we're going to go up to the race winner for the second time here tonight, speaking to Tim Matske after he's just won a race. Welcome along, Tim. It's good to have you along again. How was that opening lap and opening laps? Because you made fantastic progress.
Yeah, thanks for having me, first of all. Chaotic. I mean, there was that, I don't know, I haven't really had time to analyze it yet. There was some sort of a concertina at the start, so I think I went on the throttle super late compared to where I expected to get on the power. Also had to lift off again and just take calculated risks in lap 1 and not go into every gap that arises ahead of you. So after all, it went super well with lap 1. Sometimes you gotta be a bit lucky with the intuitive decisions you make, which line you pick. That all worked out really well, but it also has to be combined with patience and caution. There have been some incidents, as you expect on lap 1, especially in a scenario like that, where P20 is expected to be slower than anyone behind. Sorry, P1 is expected to be slower than anyone behind. Well, I'm glad it worked out. It was very straightforward. Every car ahead you need to pass. It was the mission, and it worked out. Lap 1 obviously gained so many places due to several incidents, some passes. That really was half the job already. Being in P9 after lap 1 really helped, and then picking them up step by step was a lot of fun, really enjoyable. And then Andy again did a great job finishing it off against Daniel in the Impulse car, who had also had good pace. Worked out pretty well.
It did indeed. We just seen your lap 1, by the way, on the stream. We had a bit of an onboard. You say it was there was a bit of luck involved, but a lot of good driving involved as well, keeping your nose clean and everything like that. It must have been a fantastic feeling, though, to hand over the car to your teammate, already having been in the lead. Were you expecting that kind of thing? What were you expecting from the first lap?
I tried to not make any guesses where I want to be, because after all, you can only be disappointed, I guess, when you try too hard. I absolutely had no expectations. My aim was to make up, to not lose places, I'd say. Obviously, I have expectedly the fastest car starting right ahead of me, so the further you get up the field, the easier it should get. Not necessarily always the case, as you saw also when we got to the higher or lower ranks, they started defending a bit more, understandably. No, but I didn't really have a big expectation to what will happen on lap 1. Main thing was to keep the car clean. Didn't have a single car contact, so that was really helpful.
Yeah, success on that occasion, and another success for you, a second race win. Well, all that's left to say, I guess, is congratulations on your couple of wins tonight, and we look forward to seeing you in 2 weeks' time at Barber Motorsports Park.
Yep, let's see. Really looking forward to that. Thank you to iLiveries, Greg Setup Shop, and WinWin as well for partnering with us. And then everyone, have a nice evening. Thanks for watching. I hope you all enjoyed the show. Good night.
Thanks very much. Thank you very much. Tim Matske of the number 8 Maniti Racing team. Now, one final interview that we're going to do, because they were on the podium as well. We'll bring in Chris Shorter of the 63 Impulse Racing team. Ended up second on the day, starting the car as well for Impulse. Welcome along, Chris. I guess I'll pose the same question to you as well, because it's a big talking point about race 2 especially. How was it picking your way through all the chaos that ensued on the start?
Yeah, a bit of a mess, to be honest, at the start. Somebody went towards the front and backed off, so it caused the concertina effect. And luckily, the seas parted for me, and I was able to sort of drive through the middle of it all. But yeah, once we got through, I think we were in P5, round about P5 on lap 1. And I really enjoyed sort of coming through the field and making some overtaking moves. It was really good fun. The Vector car had a blinder of a start, so they were quite far up the road. So yeah, I just had to try and get my head down and close the gap to them and take them. And yeah, later in the stint, Tim had some mega pace, so I couldn't really put up much of a fight against him. Didn't want to lose too much time to the cars behind as well. But overall, after the result in race 1, I'm really happy in race 2.
Yeah, the race 1 didn't quite go as to plan, I guess, so we'll rewind to it a little bit. Obviously, the incident at the penultimate corner obviously helped you along to a disappointing finish for you guys. I guess you might have avenged it with race 2, but yeah, I mean, how were you feeling after race 1? I know you were in the car when the incident happened, but what was the mood like anyway?
Yeah, it was a bit bleak, to be honest. I think driving angry, we were driving a bit better. We were on for a really good result again in race 1, so it was a pity to have the incident. But Dan did a great job. It also sort of forced us to pit a little bit earlier than we wanted in race 1, so the strategy was a bit off in that regard. But yeah, we just had to keep fighting. The car was down on top speed and had a bit of damage on the front end, so it wasn't the most fun to drive at the end of race 1, but we definitely made up for it in race 2.
Yeah, absolutely. And one more thing as well. We've got a race in 2 weeks' time, Barber Motorsports Park. How much experience do you have with that? And, what kind of feelings do you have towards it?
I haven't driven GT3s there for quite a while, to be honest. But a really cool track and really fun as well. So looking forward to it. I think the race 2 there is going to be tricky again as well. It's really tough to overtake there. There's about 1 or 2 overtaking spots. So yeah, the practice will start from this week already, and let's see how we go.
Yeah, we'll look forward to seeing you there in a couple of weeks' time, Chris. But first of all, thanks very much for coming to talk to us. And I guess one final thing as well. Anybody to thank before you leave us tonight?
Yeah, thanks for having us. Just thanks to all the viewers for tuning in. Thanks to you guys in RaceSpot for the great stream. Thanks to IVRA for putting on a really fun league. I really enjoy this format of racing, sort of mirroring GT Masters in real life. But yeah, just a big thanks to the whole team at Impulse Racing. The guys have been working really hard. The results are starting to show. So yeah, thanks to Daniel, my teammate. He did a great job today in both races, despite the mishap in race 1. But yeah, thanks very much.
Thanks very much for coming to talk to us, and we'll see you in a fortnight.
Cheers, see you then.
Thank you very much. Those are the driver interviews then after the race. I guess there's one final thing to do. Sumil, that was a brilliant Hungaroring round. I thoroughly enjoyed that. I really did.
Likewise, I liked the racing everywhere. Yes, for sure. The start of round 2 got a little bit messy, but everywhere we saw some great battling. Isn't that what we're here for? Luckily, we get to do this all over again in a couple of weeks at Barber. Wow, what a combination that is. Seriously, it's going to get frantic to say the least, but just watching the onboards right there, it's going to be mad.
Yeah, it is. It may be strange starting a season here in mid-October. However, we've still got 6 rounds of racing to squeeze in before December and before the new year. So make sure you join us. We'll also be broadcasting the winter season as well, starting on February the 20th at the Circuit of the Americas and the finale at Bathurst on May the 1st. So make sure you tune in here on Racebot TV for those. But for now, it's a big thank you from us for tuning in tonight. We thoroughly enjoyed tonight's racing, and I hope you have as well. I've been Ewan O'Leary alongside Sumo Arura. Hugo Luis has been behind the cameras. And until we see you in a couple of weeks' time for the Barber Motorsports Park round, this has been the IVRA HyperX GT Sprint Series. And from all of us for now, it's goodbye.
Accept and ignore, just kicking down all the doors. Guarantee you, boy, if I ask for it, it's gotta be real big. I gotta make it just for my kids and for their kids' as kids. That's wealth years and years. Promise my brother soon as he out and finish this bid, we finna do it bigger than anybody ever did. The odds is real big, jobs that's real big. Satan trying a little, my God is real big. Stayed up on the grind on the cars is real big. I gotta do it big, the only way that I can live.